Welcome everybody to Dope Check episode 30 featuring Tactical Rab and me, Ace the Stocksman. We are missing Trei 0 for today. We might catch him a little bit later. We might not, but it's the OG duo, Rab and Ace. Rab, how you feeling today, man? I know back in the UK, I think, looking great as ever. What's happening?
It's good to be back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back in the UK. The season is kind of over, but kind of not over. We've got one big event still to come. We've got ROSTERMANIA to dive into. We've got a few teams making changes, and then we've got a few more teams potentially making changes depending what happens at the World Cup. So today thought we'd go through, because there's been lots of kind of reaction really in the last week to, of course, OpTic winning the World Championship. What does it mean? Who gets the credit for it? What's going to happen going forward? Which teams are going to make moves? So I thought we'd go through today, look at some of the kind of speculation, some of the theories on what these teams should potentially and could do, because of course in last week's show we were of course there in person. It was a good time in Ace's little studio setup that he's got going on. He was kind of cooking with it. It was nice. I can lie, it was kind of nice. We went through most of the teams there, the teams that bombed out and the teams that of course did well, but there's a few other teams we didn't get to go through. So bit of ROSTERMANIA predictioning today. Those joining us live in the Twitch chat, definitely give your thoughts as we go along. Those joining us after the fact on YouTube and Spotify, drop a like, drop a comment, all that good stuff. We appreciate every single one of you. And the dope checks are not going away, ladies and gentlemen. Just because the season's over, don't mean the dope checks are stopping.
Absolutely. Off-season content will continue, but starting off, let's take a look at our boy Kenny on stage. Feeling himself a little bit, after the dub. I was actually here, not for this part. I had left, I think, by this point when he got this sauce.
When did Kenny rock up actually? Because I don't think I was there. We were there when Kenny rocked up.
Nah. By this point, I had gone home because I was just like, it was a long day. We were working for the whole weekend. I was tired. Got you as well. I think you dipped out, but somebody let him get sauced, and let's go full screen for this just to get the full experience of what this was. They're playing Grind on Me by Pretty Ricky, which, if you don't know that song, is one of the catastrophically horny songs you could ever play. And Ken is there grinding the air, feeling good. I think that's his pops right there behind him. The DJ's getting people in that mood. Yeah, man. Rab, how was that? How was the after party for you? And did you get a chance to talk to any of the OpTic boys?
Briefly when we started, shout out K-Son, by the way, my boy K-Son.
K-Son!
K-Son was good, brother. Good to see you in here again. Great to meet you as well at the World Championship. As always, out there in Dallas. Yeah, the after party was fun. We rocked up. It was, to be fair, even when we got there, it was kind of busy. When I got there, Shotzzy was there, AG was there. So I had a quick chat with AG. We didn't discuss any of the drama or anything like that, but we're cool. So it was good to be able to congratulate them. I think what was fun about it really was just the fact that they all had their families there. You know what I mean? Like everyone, all the family and friends, everyone was out there for champs. So I think it was a great moment for so many of the players.
Yeah,
especially the OpTic guys that won on home soil.
Absolutely. I had a chance to talk to a few people while I was there. I was a Slasher. I was talking to him a little bit about what's going on with his season, or what happened, basically, what's in the future. As far as I know, he's not doing anything for EWC, unfortunately. So that I can kind of close up. I think we speculated a little bit on the show that we were going to see Slasher maybe try to join an EWC team, maybe try to take a spot there, but unfortunately that hasn't happened. But he said he is looking for stuff for next year. The OpTic guys obviously were just on cloud 9. So, I did congratulate them, said hi to them, hung out for a little bit, but yeah, they were definitely going hard, and it was a well-deserved win. Jumping. We do have some clips. Speaking of OpTic, speaking of some of the controversy, some of the topics about it, obviously congrats to them. But Drazah was a topic of discussion just in a bunch of different ways, mostly negative. Not shocked, honestly. But we have a clip here of Nadeshot saying how Drazah's decision to join FaZe instead of OpTic, was seemingly the wrong one. Chat, you could put, while we're watching this, in the comments or in the chat what you think of Drazah choosing FaZe over OpTic.
I am still shocked that Drazah decided to go over to FaZe instead of OpTic. I get it from a roster perspective. Like, if I'm Drazah and my hardest matches that I've played for the last 2 years have been against Celium, Simp, and Abizi, if I'm solely thinking about winning exclusively and only care about that, I know some of you guys would argue that's like the most important thing and the only thing players should care about, but I disagree with that statement in itself. But if I were Drazah's like manager making the decision for him, I would have said, yo, I don't give a fuck what you think. You're going to go play for OpTic. If I'm a player, under any circumstance, do I ever, in any capacity, decline opportunity given to me by Hector and the OpTic Call of Duty team? I mean, obviously it worked out for OpTic. This guy Kenny is just, the man just rises to the occasion, bro. I am still
I mean, I see the angle he's coming from. I have my own thoughts on it, but you know, we're a duo out here, Rab. So I'm gonna let you start off, let you cook. What do you think about Nadeshot's opinion on Drazah choosing FaZe over OpTic?
Okay, hindsight's always 2020, right? It's easy to say. I think at the time there was some debate on whether this was the correct decision or not, but it wasn't clear either way. Obviously, in hindsight, things could have been different. But even then, was Drazah like the fit for OpTic that they needed, like Kenny was? I think, you know, my opinion is on this that they actually ended up with the right players for their teams. The Drazah issue for FaZe is more than just in-game stuff, to be honest, as far as we're aware. You know, we know some of the stuff that's been happening behind the scenes over there. So, look, I think in terms of the players they are, both teams got the right player. I think Drazah, from a personality perspective, was a better fit for FaZe, and I think that Kenny was a better fit for OpTic. But that's not, it didn't have to be that way, right? Drazah could have chosen OpTic and gone there instead. We know that he had the offer. I think that the winning argument is an interesting one because when you look at it in hindsight, you think, oh, well, FaZe are going to win more tournaments. They're going to win more prize money than OpTic because OpTic are a content org and that's their whole, you know, modus operandi. Okay, they win, but they're there to do other things as well. That's the way that Hex runs his organizations. But the reality is, you look at the last, let's just say, 3 seasons now, and you see FaZe have won 2 events in the last 3 years, and OpTic have now won 3 events in the last 3 years. So, look, you look at prize money, you can look at CDL points if you care about that, and sure, Drazah's probably, you know, picked the correct team on average for that over the last couple of years. But this year, OpTic won the most money. They won Champs. They won another event as well. FaZe just won 1. And I think that in hindsight, Drazah will probably feel like he should have taken the OpTic offer, to be perfectly honest.
I'm kind of on. I feel like you bring it up in hindsight a lot, but I think just any time anybody receives an OpTic offer when it comes to Call of Duty, you have to take it. Like I think it's a mistake if you're in the Call of Duty space as a player to not take that offer. It's too much constant content, brand building. Your stream numbers go up, your subs go up, your YouTube subs go up. You have a team behind you that's, I mean, unlike any other org in Call of Duty, right? Like they're making videos for you, helping you edit everything. OpTic have created a well-oiled system and have the fan base that can push any player basically to immediate success. Whether you can look at Illy before he was on Empire, it was good. He goes to OpTic, it's like a different level, right? Even Hook was good and had it was a good career. People liked him, but he goes to OpTic and now he has this like immense support that's like unreal. You could just see the different levels that once you even touch OpTic, even for a short time, you just pushed ahead in terms of a content, a brand. FaZe, if I was a streamer, I would pick FaZe 1,000% of the time. I wouldn't pick OpTic as a streamer. But I don't know. Drazah choosing FaZe, I do see the idea in his head, like you're saying. Take the wins, take the prize money, take the potential there. But when it comes to COD, man, anytime an OpTic offer comes knocking on the door, it's an absolute mistake to not take it in any capacity. I don't know if anyone would disagree with that. I don't know why you would, because we've just seen time after time after time after time, people's brands just absolutely explode once they touch OpTic, and yeah, that's just the truth of the matter.
Also, the opportunities, like, you know, how many times do you get offered the OpTic offer? Like, it comes along once, really, right? Like, you get your chance to say yes, and if you don't say yes, it's very unlikely you're getting the chance again. Especially because Drazah was already on OpTic, right? Like, OpTic Gaming Los Angeles back in the day.
Yeah.
Which didn't really count, but you know what I mean. Like there was even the fact that Drazah got the OpTic offer was, you know, as far as we understand, was pretty commendable in the first place.
Yeah.
And you know, you go down in history as I mean, like that photo that Hex put out of, it's just quote titled OpTic, right? Which is Hex in the middle, the Dynasty on the right, and then the new OpTic team on the left. And I don't know if they'd have won champs if they'd have got Drazah, but like that is just one of those absolute storybook photos for history. And Kenny's there, not Drazah, you know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. And also the other issue is for Drazah is it's not like he's locked in on FaZe, right? Even though arguably he was their best or probably second best player. I would say he was their second best player over the course of the last 2-3 months of the season, probably. Didn't have a good champs, but I think that Drazah was... You can absolutely argue this year that Drazah was at least on par with Celium in terms of the AR duo. You can probably argue that Drazah was better. You can argue that Cell was better as well. But I think it kind of goes both ways. But that does not mean at all that his spot is safe for various reasons.
I don't know. The whole Drazah thing on FaZe, like his spot, like we talk about the behind the scenes stuff and drama and all that, the negative attention that's brought. If I'm thinking about it, if I'm OpTic too, I mean, even before this season, there was drama surrounding Drazah, right? Surrounding his girl, the community disliking, you know, just throwing jokes and stuff at his girl. So I don't know. OpTic is very brand conscious. So I think even it says a lot at the fact that they still were willing to take take the chance on Drazah with the drama he brought. And on top of that, OpTic's a loyal org. Once they like you, once you bring success to OpTic, they keep you for a long time, right? You win some events, you perform well, you're locked into that brand at the top of the Call of Duty scene for a long time. You have the Dashie, Shotzzy, Scumps, these guys. AG, I mean, would you agree or disagree? You think AG now, after bringing a chip and a champs to OpTic, do we see him go anywhere for multiple years? I don't think so. So Drazah, I think, made that mistake a little bit of taking the easy bag over the biggest opportunity possible. The ceiling on one is higher, but the work put in, I guess, has to be more on the OpTic side, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It does raise interesting questions what happens to OpTic, you know, for the coming seasons as well. Who stays, who, you know, because the only thing with OpTic that we've talked about, obviously Shotzzy ain't going anywhere. Fred's not going anywhere. Kenny absolutely should not be going anywhere. Neither should Dashie, but it's, you know, the only point on Dashie is whether he just says, you know what, enough's enough, I'm going to retire, right? Because he did talk about that before. That was basically, he made the point of, well, I don't want to retire before I've got a ring, and here comes the ring. And when you look at Dashie's career of, like, you know, 7-8 years, you know, there's players that have retired at younger ages, having played less seasons than Dashie. I don't think he's going to do it. I think there'll be no reason to do it, especially with the Trei game on the horizon. But that's like the only way. Assuming OpTic stay this good next year, and they know the ceiling that they have as literally the World Championship winners. To be fair, though, we know that there is a thing called the Champs Curse, and no team has ever won it again as the same roster. So, you know, we'll see if OpTic could break that. But in the immediate term, it's one of the interesting Dashie questions. Just to, like, I don't think there's anything in it. And also, I think Kenny even commented on this before when Kenny mentioned last year sometime, was like, when he joined this OpTic team, was like, yeah, there were rumors that I was going to retire in the offseason. Like, what are you talking about? I ain't going anywhere. So,
I mean,
that's not the only way.
I was hanging out with Brandon, and I'm just going to say that man was just elated. He was just on top of the world. I don't think we see him go anywhere. He seems like, if anything, I think this chance ring for Bruce makes him want to stay longer. I think that actually brings his spirits higher to where he wants to play more. That's what it felt like when I was speaking to him. Like, it felt like he just can't wait to continue playing, can't wait to get on, can't wait for EWC, can't wait for next year. He's just so juiced about winning that he wants to win more. I think it's like almost like, you know, you can say it's almost like an addiction of just like, we got it. Now that we've done it, now like we can steamroll ahead with this roster. It's possible. We broke the wall. The green wall, haha, and then made it through. But speaking of another free agent
just
out there,
on Drazah, actually, before we get to this, I thought Kingdom Soldier made an interesting comment really on just like the whole villain versus hero thing.
Okay.
Also, shout out Kingdom, by the way, my guy, coming in with the tier 1 as well. But just because, like, Drazah tried to play, and still tries to play, like, the villain, right? That was kind of the whole point of why he came through. Yeah, exactly, right. That's the reason why he came through the phase, and that was, like, his whole plan, was to, like, become the villain or whatever. And on some sense, he's kind of achieved it, but I don't really know if he's quite got the personality to actually pull it off, right? Especially with all the stuff that's probably been happening behind the scenes. So yeah, I guess in hindsight, I think he'll have some interesting thoughts. But like, it's not like he hasn't made money this year, and he's already a world champion. But we want to go better. It's like you look at the all-time players. The fact that, I mean, it makes sense. 3 rings is a very impressive achievement, but the fact that the player with the most rings is at 3 is interesting. That some players could have always, could have already got there or been on the verge. I mean, Simp and Abizi, they won 2 rings in their first 3 years competing. So you'd have thought that by now they might have had 4, like, could be possible. I mean, Kenny's been in 4 Champs Grand Finals, and he potentially could have won all of them, right? He's obviously won 2 out of 4 attempts. Kenny will feel like he could be a 4-time ring owner. And then that's the thing, a guy like Drazah won the World Championship in 2022. He's got to be thinking that 2, 3, 4 rings is on the cards for him. But obviously it's a difficult accomplishment for a very good reason. And Karma now has 4 technically after his win as a coach. But yeah, I just find that the whole thing kind of fascinating that we're still, like, the record is still 3, after all these years.
Who beyond back to the villain point though, I think it would have been intelligent, again, going back to that thought of, like, if Zach Drazah decided to not continue in that role. If he went to OpTic, I think that could have flipped in his favor. Because honestly, bro, especially in the COD scene, being hated doesn't get you that kind of love, that kind of juice, that far, right? Like, getting hated in the scene isn't necessarily a positive thing. We're a big scene, but we're still a small scene. If you're disliked, that's not good for your brand. It's not good for your videos. It's not good for your stream. It's not good for many aspects. Where I think if he went to OpTic, it would have been a big opportunity for him to flip the narrative. Go from villain to hero, and that storyline would have been like a massive boost for him and everyone else. But
Kind of what Kenny pulled off, right? I mean, like,
yes.
Kenny was basically, I mean, I wouldn't say hated, but it wasn't far off, right, by the green wall. I mean, last year, if Kenny would crack a smile or laugh during a search and destroy map against OpTic, this guy was getting vilified.
Yeah.
And here we are, like, 12 months later, and he's very quickly one of the most beloved members for a good reason. I mean, Ken's always been a top quality player and a top quality guy. But that is the way that the story arc goes. And also it works the other way. Like, once you leave OpTic, this is a bit of a segue to Ghosty here, because I think of many of the players that we've looked at, Ghosty is one of the players that actually maintained some of the goodwill from OpTic fans more so than many others have. Like, when Envoy left OpTic, there was a lot of sadness. The video when he obviously, he was effectively dropped because they did the merger and no one was choosing Envoy over Shotzzy. So he leaves. Obviously, it's a sad moment. The community and the OpTic fans still like to support him. But does that really exist today? Are any OpTic fans really supporting Toronto because Envoy's there? Not really, as far as I'm concerned. It was even true for Formal in some respect. Like, when Formal left OpTic, the Dynasty, and went to LG, like, I'm sure they were, even after all he'd done for OpTic in those years, I think quite quickly it was like, it's cool for Formal, but a lot of the OpTic fans weren't exactly, like, rooting for LG to win or anything. And that's fine. I mean, that's just sports. Like, there's no issue with it. Crimsix was frustrated about it when he left OpTic, like, after his days at that team were over, and all of a sudden his stream numbers are in the mud, and he's wondering why. But that's just how it is. And maybe it won't be true for Ghosty next year beyond. But I think this year there was definitely a feeling of OpTic fans in that venue giving Thieves some love because of what Ghosty did for their team last year.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% with this sentiment. And again, similar to, I don't know, it's probably too far gone from the Envoy time, right? But, like, Envoy for the year after did have some carry on, similar to Ghosty, of having that love of, like, when he would come on, would come on stage, and that people would give him that kind of that affection. But speaking on Ghosty here, Nadeshot speaks on FaZe buying out Ghosty. Let's hear what he has to say about this rumor, I guess, in the community.
Would you sell Ghosty if FaZe offered to buy him out? If we sold Ghosty to FaZe right now, I'm pretty sure we would not have a 100 Thieves fan left. Just straight up, bro. Wait, we gave him Drazah, now they want Ghosty? You gotta get out of here, bro. This ain't no farm system for FaZe.
Again, on the show, on our last show, actually, our in-person show, which if you didn't check out, please check out that. Our episode 29, we did it in person. But I spoke on this a little bit. I said, why would, if you're LA Thieves, why would you give up your best asset? Skill-wise, leadership-wise, fan base-wise, there's no benefit to letting him go. Even if someone offers you $200,000 tomorrow, what does the money get you? What replacement AR do you have for him? What even good sub out there is like a top dog sub is there that you we got $200,000. This can really help us get XYZ person. There's nobody. So I think it'd be super foolish, super ultimately dumb foolish of LA Thieves to let go of Ghosty in any capacity. I think he's the piece that you build around to bring your franchise back to good graces and get you back to the form that could potentially compete with the top four and maybe not win a championship, let's be honest, for several years, but at least you're getting towards that goal in time rather than literally burying yourself 6 feet deep if you let him go or let him get bought out.
No, I 100% agree. Like, especially if they actually do have a bit more money to play with this year than they previously did, then there's no reason to sell Ghosty. I mean, the only two options are someone pays an extraordinary amount of cash that you can't really say no to, or option two, Ghosty actually wants to leave, which is kind of the concern, is that if FaZe come along and they want Ghosty, and Ghosty wants to go, then it's like, what do you do, right? It's kind of awkward. You don't really want to hold the guy against his will. Obviously, with like Thieves, their entire team blew up last year after Octane retired, so Drazah was kind of like just gonna go anyway. That was not gonna be a change there. But I think that's the concern for Thieves. But there is good momentum for Thieves at the end of the season. I think we'll discuss them in the coming minutes, really, what they should potentially look to do in the off season, because their team isn't good enough to win champs, and that's the goal because they've done it before. Ghosty's a good enough player to win champs, as are maybe one or two other guys on their team. And sometimes it would be nice to see a team stick it out and improve as a core, but that sometimes is like a bit of a fantasy where it doesn't always work like that, especially when you're probably going to have FaZe and you're probably going to have potentially New York and Ultra trying to upgrade. It's like if you're Thieves, you've got to upgrade if you want to keep up. And you know what OpTic did at the end of the season? They were borderline untouchable. So that's kind of my perspective there. I need to hydrate, apparently.
They're saying official EWC groups have been released, so let's take a quick look at that. Live on the show, I guess CDL Intel. They said Intel tweet.
Absolutely. Let's have a look.
Oh, here we go.
CDL tweet.
Official.
Wow.
Here we go. So live reactions, I guess, from me and Rab right here. Group A, OpTic Gaming, which is interesting because OpTic Texas, OpTic Gaming, Vegas Legion, Carolina, and Omid Brooklyn. B, Cloud9, Seattle Surge, G2 Esports, which is Rocker. C, Toronto Ultra, Heretics, Boston Breach, and Stallions. Hey, let's go. Shout out Tommy. D, 100 Thieves, FaZe, Falcons, Lore, Gaming. Rab, what is your reaction to these pools? Do any of them look harder, easier? What do we think? Hey, chat, what do you guys think? Which one looks the easiest or the hardest? Let me know.
Okay, so my first thoughts are like, this is giving me CWL vibes. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm looking at these teams and I ain't seeing as much of the city-based cheese. I mean, okay, it's still there, but it ain't there for most of the teams anymore. OpTic Texas has disappeared. It's now OpTic Gaming again. And Hex actually made a comment on one of my videos the other day. So some guy commented and said, basically Hex has told the OpTic guys to put OpTic only in their bios because he doesn't like the city-based stuff. Because if you look right now at the OpTic guys' bios, I'm pretty sure they used to say, let's say, champion for OpTic Texas, player for OpTic Texas. They now all say world champion for OpTic, right?
Okay.
And And the theory was, well, is that just a small change for the Esports World Cup? Because, of course, they're just representing OpTic Gaming at the Esports World Cup. It's not going to be OpTic Texas because, obviously, Hex had a conversation and was like, hey, I want us to be OpTic Gaming. And the Saudis, I suppose, aren't going to say no to that. So that's who they're going to represent. But I guess the question is that now a longer-term thing? Are they going to be OpTic Gaming next year? There were rumors the other day that Cloud9, who, of course, are the subliners, they are going to be called like Cloud9 New York or something next year, which is hella ugly if they do that.
Yeah.
But maybe it means that there's another year of the city stuff. But at least for the World Cup, we largely get away from it. Like Toronto Ultra is still Toronto Ultra, but I wouldn't be surprised if that just becomes Ultra or something in the near future. Got Boston still, got Atlanta FaZe, but 100 Thieves, it's G2 instead of Rocker. Obviously 100T instead of Los Angeles Thieves. Cloud9 is New York. And even, Gentlemates, I saw that in the chat as well. I wasn't aware Gentlemates were getting involved here because they are the organization that... So if you guys remember Whalers, old school French Call of Duty player, he now plays for the Gentlemates Valorant team, which is kind of a quirky bit of trivia. But he made the transition to Valorant and he qualified through Ascension for the EMEA. Basically, in Valorant, you can, if you win challenges, you qualify for the Pro League. He did that last year in Valorant, and they represent Gentlemates now. So interesting to see that organization get involved. But yeah, the Omit Brooklyn team, which is still Pro Loot, right? Because that was his team, but then they all left for Boston.
Yeah.
So he formed a new team around him. So they are competing. But yeah, so I just yapped for half an hour. I didn't even talk about the groups. So maybe...
Yeah. I didn't want to say it, but I'm glad you said it yourself. It's all good. I'll talk about the groups for a little bit, though. Pretty outstandingly, Group D looks very easy. Looks just like the easiest generally to me. You only have 2 CDL teams, and you have 2 Team Falcons. Let's be honest, the MENA region is cool. They're very active. But competition-wise, I don't think they're like the NA much, or even the EU. I think the MENA guys, they compete with the EU guys once in a while, but the EU guys definitely have a hold on them, and the NA guys obviously have a hold on the EU guys. NA over EU, if you know ball. I think FaZe is going to smoke Group D pretty easily. Group C, also fairly easy. I mean, that's basically FC Black, which is the Stallions. Ultra should steamroll this. Heretics could be a surprise upset. Boston is a brand new team, so I don't know really what we get from them. Group B. Group B is probably the hardest one, to be honest. I think Group A, it's in order. If I put easiest to hardest, D, C, A, B. OpTic still have 2 CDL teams that they have to go up against with an improved Carolina with Beans on that roster. Vegas, you could from scrims didn't look improved, but with Fame is supposed to be an upgrade there too. And then Oma Brooklyn, pretty much 4 people who've been in the league before, essentially. So you have a pretty dicey Group A for OpTic. And then B, I think that's the hardest one. New York, Seattle, Rocker, and then who's the Gentlemates team? You said it's Europeans?
That's Bance and the boys, yeah. So Bance, Harry, Cobra, and Denza.
Oh, the old Team War combo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I think Group B is definitely the chippiest one for sure. You got pretty much ex-pros, an improved Rocker, a Seattle that, even other pros, Ghosty himself on the pod recently said they should have got top 6 at Champs, and New York, who was just in Grand Finals. So, if I'm in Group B, I'm low-key pissed. I'm worried for Lamar and the boys. I'm going to keep it a $150 with you guys.
Yeah, just the other thing on Gentlemate is that, okay, Whalers plays for them, but that is Gataga's team. It's like that he founded that organization or whatever. So that's what's going on there. Old school French COD player, big personality. But yeah, I mean, I agree with your perspective, I think, on the groups. I think Group D is more interesting than maybe we're giving it credit for. Just because Thieves they think Thieves, they were good enough to make the finals of Champs. And other teams as well have said that they were impressed by the Los Angeles Thieves. I mean, they beat Toronto early on. They came close to doing so again after their losers bracket run. I think it's plausible that they could have beaten Toronto. Could they have beaten New York? I don't know, but they could have got top 3, top 2 at Champs Thieves. And FaZe were top 6, and sure, they're going to be the favorites for the group. But if we'd have seen FaZe play Thieves at the event, I don't know who wins that, straight up. So I think it depends what happens over the next couple of weeks. as to what could have happened there. Falcons are pretty good as well. I mean, they won the Elite in EMEA a little while ago. Of course, they're the Saudi team. And then Law Gaming is Arceti's team, which would be really interesting to see if Arceti, just to see how that goes against FaZe, right? Because we're getting a nice little battle there. And also, like, there is the fact that Ghosty, and we've talked about that a second ago, but the whole idea that Ghosty is in the group with FaZe, right? I always love little storylines like this, where imagine Ghosty just absolutely fries FaZe and knocks him out of the tournament type thing. Then obviously someone's going to think about that. So that's my thoughts on Group D. Group C, I'm interested in just to see how the new Boston team is. Obviously, we joked all season about how many teams they would lose to. The Gentlemates roster is, I think, the basically the Team War roster. Harry, Cobra, Bance, and Denza, we believe. So this new Boston team going to be any better? Can FC Black do any damage against them? But I think that should be fine for Ultra and Heretics on paper. But I agree, Group B is nice. I like Group A as well, actually, a lot, just to see how the new Ravens get on. But I think Group B is the interesting one, because I like what G2 have done with their team, with Rocker. Obviously, New York aren't the best, but they're very close to. And Surge are probably better than they looked at the World Championship. So I actually like the way these groups have gone. Just to clarify in the format here, it is a straight-up double elim in the group. So it's a GSL style, where effectively you win 2 before you lose 2, and you get to the bracket, you lose 2 before you win 2, and you're straight out of there. So there's a pretty insane... I mean, we're looking at the chat here, like, I've got A is a toss-up for second seed from Slackify. I've got Group B is Wild from RHK747. I've got Group C is Stacked from Toast 2 Popstar Top 12. And I've got Group D is Insane from Blunted 112. So, nobody seems to have their minds made on what is the best group here.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear cut, but again,
nice to meet you, by the way. But welcome back.
Thank you for that, brother. Need you for that. No, 100%. I think it's Group B, but everyone's welcome to their opinion. Again, I think if I get my order is D, C, A, B from easiest to hardest, but really, who knows? COD is day to day. Once these matches start playing out, we might see FaZe look 10 times better than they did at Grand Finals or in championships. We might see a FaZe that feels embarrassed for what happened getting top 6, and they come out here absolutely slamming these teams. You might get same time, respectfully, to any Greenwall OpTic fans. This is no intel. This is just what we've seen from history. Major 4, they win Major 3. Major 4, they're lackluster, right? They just won champs. Now we're coming into EWC. Will they get upset by? Wait. I'm just saying. Will they get upset by?
First, 12, first, 16.
I'm just saying, like the possibility of OpTic being on such a high horse, and potentially not performing well here with again, Beans on that Carolina team is a sleeper team. That's a good team. Those are good pros. TJ is good. Fellow on LAN is good. Beans has been frying. Gwyn has something to prove, man. Rookie of the year. So, I don't know. I'm worried a little bit for OpTic. I think FaZe actually has an opportunity here to bounce back from their champs embarrassment. We can see some shockers kind of happening within these pools. But let's continue on, right? Like, this is just a pop-up that we didn't expect to happen right when we were doing the show, and here we are. But, yeah, EWC looks great. August 14th coming really soon.
Lots of money on the line.
Lots of money on the line. Hella money on the line. This was kind of wild to me, too. I saw this, and I kind of didn't know what to think. Chat, you guys let us know what you think about this. Is it cringe? Is it good or bad? But let's listen to it. In Halo, when FaZe Clan was sent home, people started chanting, "Fuck you, Drazah," which is insane, because he's not even there. But let's take a listen, and we'll react to it, I guess, right after.
OpTic fans going crazy, but you see those OpTic players themselves not celebrating. They know that they just barely beat out FaZe there. Their tournament life continues to Sunday, but I can't recall the last tournament that we've seen without FaZe entering Sunday.
This is one of the most insane things I've ever seen. I don't know if Halo fans and COD fans are literally just right next, like the same fans, just changing jerseys or just pulling up to different events. I could see that being the case, but
I mean, literally, some of the boys from Champs were there. Like, there was no.
There's cross pollination for sure, right?
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Bro, that like I don't know. I think it's insane. I think it's kind of cringe though, low key. Like, Drazah's not even there. Why is this becoming such a chant? I don't know.
Yeah, I think people in chat are right. Like the whole I'm the CEO of OpTic thing. Like, I think that probably did. It's one of those things that the fans aren't gonna forget. You know, like the Vickle thing where Vickle goes F OpTic F the green wall. Like, obviously that's gonna live on. But I think, you know, next season, give it a bit more time. The OpTic fans might calm down on Vickle a little bit. For Draz, it's a bit of a different story because he's been so competitive. He's talked so much trash. He said that he owns the organization. And it ain't happened. I thought it was kind of crazy though that this was FaZe's major, right? Like FaZe ran this event in Atlanta. FaZe get knocked out pretty early by OpTic, and then Drazah's catching strays. It is pretty sensational. Shows the strength of the green wall, but also on some level shows that like, why aren't FaZe running events in COD? You know what I'm saying? They put one on here in Halo. Like, what's going on there? Is it an Atlanta Esports Ventures related thing? Like, how come OpTic have run like 4 or 5 events over the last few years, and FaZe have put on one back in Modern Warfare 19? We ain't seeing shit from them. You know, those guys can't complain about having, you know, crowd cheese. Like, they team hasn't put on an event.
Yeah,
not like it's the players' fault. But...
Yeah, K-Son, what the fuck is going on over there? Let's lock it in, baby. Let's lock it in.
Yeah, let's lock it in.
Come on, man. I know you're in chat watching still. Let's get an event ran by you. I know the DJ is gonna be sick. I know the streamers pulling up is gonna be sick. It should be in Atlanta, in LA, whatever it might be. I know you can throw a sick event, K-Son. Stop playing us, man. All right, formal on Scrap joining FaZe. This was another interesting topic. We had the Ghosty conversation, right? Some chatter about Ghosty, and then at Champs, formal actually comments on Scrap joining FaZe. So let's see what one of the goats out here is saying on the OpTic watch party.
Drazah. I don't know who they dropping for who.
Drazah, it would have to be.
But who do you get?
I don't know.
Unless you get
like,
scrapped. Unless you get scrapped, there's no argument.
That'd be poetic.
There's no reason. That'd be crazy.
That'd be poetic. That'd be so. Oh my god.
I think it would. Dude, I don't even know.
That would suck so bad for Drazah. You were replaced by him.
Even go. Go to
That would
Ultra.
suck.
That ends the beef right there.
You know what's actually kind of comedy about this is that when we did our dope check after the Miami Major 2, I spoke on the possibility, like the joking possibility of this happening on Scrap. What if Scrap just decided to go to FaZe? The person to replace, I don't think would be Cell. I think Cell is too valuable and is a walking 1.2. You would take out Drazah for the drama reasons and XYZ reasons. The girlfriends, as we've seen, love each other, tweet each other all the time. I don't see Keeks tweeting any of them. I don't see any of that. Yeah. So it makes a bit of sense, and it'd be the craziest storyline. Rab, your pockets would be greased for a week straight if we saw Scrap replace Drazah on his team. Holy fuck, it'd be insane.
Would definitely be insane. I guess my question really for the chat and for you as well is that over the last few years, it's basically been an impossibility to turn down FaZe, right? Like, if you get a FaZe offer, you're going to take the FaZe offer. Like, as Slasher did, as Drazah did even over OpTic. Like, if FaZe come along as the trio, or even as a duo, or whatever happens this offseason, they say, hey, we want you to complete our team. You know, people are choosing FaZe over OpTic in that sense. The only example to the contrary is possibly Shotzzy, right? Like, the rumor is that they probably wanted him going into MW2. But because Scump said, hey, look, I'm coming back, we're going to run it back with the team, it's going to be the way to go. Shotzzy obviously isn't going to leave OpTic with Scump there. But if Scump retires, it's quite possible that Shotzzy goes to FaZe at that point. I think now we're in a situation where, are you taking the FaZe offer for sure? Like, if you're Scrappy, are you looking at that trio and saying, like, I simply cannot say no? Or are you saying, actually, you know what? I like it on Toronto. The structure is good. The team chemistry works. Maybe we need an upgrade in a certain spot. But it's not like Toronto's results this year were massively different from FaZe's. They both won an event. Toronto beat them at the World Championship. And maybe, you know, I'm sure Scrappy thinks, I could go to FaZe and I could make them the best team in all this. And maybe that's a reason to say yes. But, like, I'm not convinced that if FaZe go to Scrap and say, hey, we want you, is he saying yes for sure? I don't think he's saying yes guaranteed.
I mean, if I'm Scrap, man, like, and I have an opportunity to, like, we can do a 1-for-1. Let's just do an honest 1-for-1, right? Insight versus Celium. Who's better? And I'm asking you this. Who's better? Just go ahead.
Celium is a better player.
Okay, Celium, right? Envoy or
Right.
Envoy or BZ.
Okay, yeah. I mean, you're right. Like, look, I ain't gonna try and argue your point here. Like, you know, the team chemistry and aspect is potentially more important. Like, if I'm Scrappy, I know that obviously, like, they get on with Cell and stuff like this, but like, am I convinced that Cell will be a better AR duo than Insight will? Not necessarily. But
I mean, okay, if I'm Scrap and I get the call, again, we've talked about the contracts, and we have actually we're going to talk about this a little bit too, which is the free agents and the offseason. Thank you to Benjay and everyone that contributed to this. But, you know, we can scroll down really quick. Toronto Ultra, FAs? No, and no. Scrap, I had the intel very early on this season that he was not a free agent, and I also had the intel on Hydra that he was not a free agent. So, unless something catastrophic happens, I think, with this FaZe team, this is not really going to be a possibility. But let's say in a year or so, the core three want to grab Scrap. And you have to remember this, right? If I'm going to throw this back to you because I actually want to hear what you want to say about this and the chat as well. Let's say next year comes. That means now some of the OpTic players are FAs now too, right? They got their 1+1. So now they're going to be free agents as well. If you're Scrap coming into the market, you're the best player. You're your top 1 or 2 candidate as a free agent. If you're Scrap and you get the OpTic and FaZe offer, again, similar to what Drazah got, what do you take?
I mean, right now, like, you take the OpTic offer for sure if you get the opportunity. I think that's the way it looks like to me. I just think there's a couple of questions on FaZe as to what they're going to do that. Obviously, it's always compelling to join FaZe. Like, Simple to Beezy come knocking. Difficult to say no. But there are still questions in that camp as to exactly, why haven't they achieved as much as they should have done regardless of their fourth? I don't really know the answer to that. They presumably do know to some degree the answer to that. So I think that's why there's some concern there. I think the other point as well is that I don't know if the OpTic guys will become free agents in the sense that they might just sit down with the boys at the start of this year and re-sign them to another 1+1, like if they wanted to. Because that's kind of what they're doing with the likes of like a Hydra or whatever, where they'll just sit down with their best players at the start. I think they did this at FaZe as well. And they'll just sit down with those guys at the start of the year and they'll say, hey, we want to sign you on another 1+1 now. Like, let's just figure out the paperwork and get it locked in, and then we have the option again for you guys next year. So I wouldn't be surprised if OpTic do that as well. So, but contracts only go so far, right? As I say, if Scrappy wants to go to FaZe and FaZe want to buy out Scrappy, then probably a deal will get done. I mean, last year it was very interesting with Toronto, right? Because they were going to blow it up. They were this close to blowing it up. Scrappy was tweeting about that he was stuck in contract jail because Kleenex was apparently getting sold off. Insight was getting sold off. Hixie was going to go. They wanted to lock down Scrappy as their star asset, and Scrap was, wanting to leave, it felt like, and was stuck in this contract jail. And all of a sudden, Toronto said, okay, you know what, Scrap, like, yeah, you're right. You're going to play, you're not going to want to play for us if we do this bullshit. So, you know what, let's run it back and we'll bring Envoy in and we'll keep everyone happy, which is what they eventually decided to do. So, that is the thing, that contracts only go so far in sports in general.
Yeah, the intelligent thing I think of Toronto would be to try to talk to Scrap early on. Because if you're Toronto, similar to LAT, you have, that's your best piece. You know what I'm saying? Like that's your piece. That's your piece of the pie with Scrap. Getting a buyout on him, what does it get you? Letting him go free, how does it help your org? It actually puts you in the worst hole possible. It makes you less competitive. You magically grabbed a top 3-4 player in the entire CDL and are building around him. Letting him go, I think, is the worst idea possible. But at the same time, if you have a player, obviously, that's fighting back and saying, like, bro, I'm in jail and I won't play, this and that, shit, man. If I'm Scrap after Black Ops 6 and let's say OpTic underperform, I'm personally, like we talked about the Drazah discussion, you got to go to OpTic. Even if the team is in chaos, let's say like they play terribly Black Ops 6, team's in shambles, all you got is Shotzzy, everyone else decides to go for some reason, I'm still going to OpTic just because the chance to boom up all my socials. I've said it. Scrap is the face of the league to me. He needs to be on OpTic to become the true face of the league that I think he can become.
I feel like it may well happen eventually, but yeah, time will tell.
Also, speaking of Shotzzy, speaking of OpTic again, this clip. Hey, who's that handsome fella? Who's that guy? You know that guy? I know that guy. I know that guy for sure. This is from the Stay Attached podcast. Dylan Attaches pod. He did with Ghosty actually, just pretty recently. He's speaking on Shotzzy being his favorite teammate ever. So let's take a watch of this and why Shotzzy to him is undervalued and a great teammate.
In the pro league, it would be Ant. It would be Shotzzy easily. Yeah, I think it'd be Ant.
Is that because he's just has insane movement? You just see him world star every day in scrims, or
nah? Talent aside, he's genuinely one of the best teammates anyone can ask for. Very level-headed. Doesn't get very emotional. Very smart whenever it comes to the game and how to play it. How he wants to work it. Very methodical. Like people think he's like a big risk taker, a little headless at times, but like it's way more calculated than people give him credit for.
Yeah.
In the pro league, it would.
Yeah, I think unequivocally, we saw it on that Champs Sunday, even at Champs in general, Shotzi's risk-taking is not real risk. I think if his teammates are holding the right lanes and playing well around him and enabling Shotzzy is not, it's not random. He's very calculated in what he's trying to do and his goal with his movement. He's trying to make the other team tweak, as Trey said, like he has the hardest role in Call of Duty. He has the hardest role in the CDL. His job is to be the playmaker, the star player, the one that makes the other team tweak. And Ghosty is attesting to that point again. I mean, I think it says more. It's backing up the points that we were making basically last week, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Trey was obviously making the point as well on Shotzzy being just the most important player. And it's cool to see him get the credit from the other players as well. I always think it's fascinating to hear what the players think of other players. Because if you had the players rank the best players in the league, they would definitely come up with a different list to what the fans would come up with. A lot, but also some of it's biased in terms of what they see in scrims that fans don't get to see, and the way that they perceive those teams to be working. I also don't think the pros are necessarily the best at really analyzing that, but I do think that they get to experience far more than the fans do quite how impactful certain players are. And obviously Shotzzy tops the lot on that. So this is, it's not a new phenomenon. Shotzzy plays the game differently to anybody else, but I think it is actually really cool how in the league right now we arguably have, it was a big conversation 4 months ago.
Don't do this, Rab. Oh, God, here we go.
I'm going to do it. But to be fair, when we had the conversation of the superstars, there was some debate on it, right? But I think right now you can genuinely argue that we have one superstar per team, per top team. We have Simp on FaZe, we have Hydra on New York, we have Scrap on Toronto, and we have Shotzzy on OpTic, which is pretty damn cool. Because I actually think that you can... I don't know if I would argue any other player as like a superstar. Like, I don't think any team has like two superstars. You can argue Prayer or whatever, like you're easy. I don't care. I'm not going to into it again. But I think that you look at the course of the season, and the 4 best players were those 4 on 4 different teams. And that's a pretty cool spot for the league to be in if that remains true next year.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, in my humble opinion, Ghosty, if they could build around him well, then we'll have this is a big claim, big take, but we'll have a 5th superstar who's like outstanding on an org that can put him up, make the brand bigger. Again, they are doing content and like these little pods and stuff. They have little, they're working. LAT is working, trying to make their shit better and better. I hope we can get to the point where we have 5, 6 superstars on different teams, and Ghosty's one of those guys. Maybe Attaches another guy. Just guys who are playing unbelievably and get to the top of the league and be in that conversation for the superstars. Because the more superstars COD has, the more COD can grow in general. The more big brand people we have, the more COD grows in general. So I want to see a superstar damn near every team if possible, right? I want to see that possibility keep growing.
This guy cracked me up, bro. Cheesy came in the chat and says you forgot Johnny on Legion.
I did forget about it. That's my bad, Cheesy. That's definitely my bad. We also have Ken here talking about Shotzzy playing in flow state. Again, it's definitely connecting to that champs, how he's playing at champs, and when Shotzzy's on, what he can do, and how dangerous of a player he is on the map. So let's listen to Ken speak on the marvel of Shotzzy.
It's like Ant didn't even go to like normal school. He just went to COD school, bro, or just gaming school. He just went to gaming school. That guy's awesome, like ninja mode, bro. That guy went 35 and 12 or something like that. That map. I don't think he called out once. He might have said 2 things that whole map. Like actually 2 things, like no bullshit. And literally ended the tournament and said, I might have said 500 words this tournament, and y'all said 15,000. You're literally MVP. You guys not even calling out. Like that's just like that's one weird thing. Like Ant's in flow when he like isn't calling out. I'm in flow when I'm calling out everything. Cause like not calling out, I start thinking too much. Like what the fuck going on? Do I need to look at this? Do I need to look at that? Like what the fuck, yo? You got like I'm thinking, hey, yo, do he got this? Do he not got this? Like I start tweaking. He's just getting 2 pieces, and then he's not even saying a word. Like I get a 2 piece, I'm yelling dead, or I'm like shit on. Like I'm hitting something. He's just gone. He's just 2 piece. He just keep it moving. It's like Ant didn't even go to like normal school.
I definitely noticed that when we were watching some of like the listen-ins with OpTic, that when Shotzzy is like in the mode, he's just this close to the screen and just locked. He's not saying much. Do I bring up the discussion of Shotzzy not common is hurting OpTic? Do I dare do that, or am I about to get flamed to death if I try to talk about that? Because we do have the conversation about Cell a lot of the times, about how Cell's comms are erratic or hard to hear, whatever it may be. But Ken is literally admitting right here that Shotzzy, when he's in that zone, is not saying anything. And he said the whole tournament.
You know, like, hot take, I prefer him not saying shit than fucking yapping bullshit in my ear, like, that I can't even understand. Like, I prefer to just look at the minimap and see what he's up to than hear bullshit. Like, you know, it's the same with Illy with the yo. It's like, you know, just say nothing, brother. I can see where you are on the minimap. I mean, if you got a guy like Kenny who knows what he's talking about, he can call up a Shotzzy if he needs to. But yeah, to be honest, like, I have no problems with Celium, but as a player, I'm on my like full Cell hater arc. Like I did not vote him very highly. In our like Player of the Year rankings, I did not vote him very highly. So you know, people discovered that in my video too. People commenting like, "Wow, I can't believe Rab criticizing Cell's comms." I'm like, bro, how long you been around? Like I've been here.
No, I mean,
I've been doing this,
bro. I love Cell, man. I was the only guy who wanted him high A tier and have an argument for S tier, but people still are just running with this narrative that his 1.2 is irrelevant. Okay, I guess professional Call of Duty. I guess when a guy's dropping a 1.2 better than everyone else, that's just irrelevant all the time. All of a sudden, the kills on the map, getting those kills are irrelevant. I think his comms are not bad, but later in the show, we'll watch a little bit of some of the GTA RP clips of AG making fun of Cell's comms. We'll watch a little bit of that too, because, man, that GTA shit is so funny, watching AG be Cell and Cell be AG. Some of the best content I've seen in a long time. You threw this in there today. I wasn't sure what the conversation was here about GAs with scrims.
Yeah, so let me just explain this real quick.
Yeah.
There was some speculation from Slasher, from I think maybe Lamar and maybe Zuma, and I forget the other one, but they were watching Attach stream and practice, and we'll talk about some of these practice results in a second, and thinking that Attach was using, I think, single tap to sprint, so not auto tactical sprint, but single tap to sprint. And the speculation goes that come the Esports World Cup in a couple of weekends' time, the GAs are going to go out the window, right? Because you've got Challengers players coming in. They play potentially with auto tac sprint, and if they don't, they definitely play with single tap to sprint. It may be GA'd, but it's not followed, so they basically just gave up, really. On the pro side, they have followed those GAs, but basically Attach says here in the comments, there's a bit of like a comment thread, where he pretty much goes on to say, we're not really sure what the situation is with GAs. Right now, most challengers use single tap, he says. So yeah, like what can we do about it? I mean, there was a comment from Attach there.
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay, yeah, I see it now, yeah. So, yeah, when everyone's back to scrimming, it'll be a discussion. Obviously, in an ideal world, the challengers will conform to the pros, and they will, no problem at all, run it up as intended. But the reality is, who knows? Especially when there's this amount of money on the line, some teams will be coming in with less practice than others. Because as you say, these challenger teams, they'll be grinding their dicks off for the next couple of weeks, as are the teams that have just formed their new rosters. OpTic, they're going to be chilling, they're going to be turning up, hungover probably, maybe on a couple of days of practice, turning up, believing that they're going to win the whole thing, and they may win it, they may not. I mean, we'll see. I'm sure they're going to put practice in, but like some teams are going to be taking it more seriously than others, and I just wonder whether, given the amount of money that's potentially on the line here, especially if I'm a challengers player and I've been grinding through not on a proper salary, and I get the chance to go to the World Cup and try and get out of my group, am I going to snake the heady? Am I going to put on auto tax sprint? I mean, no, obviously I wouldn't, because I'm an upstanding moral individual, but I'm saying that somebody might.
But my bigger thing is that I was watching the stream as well. I was in the call at some point with Tommy and Lamar and these guys too, and I'm gonna be honest. I think Dale was using AQ during while he was scrimming, and the next day all of a sudden his audio's off. So I think that's like a little bit of cheese happening. The accusations get thrown out there, and it's very hard to prove. But I'm fairly convinced, just from watching, some of the matches and online matches and things like that, that people are 1,000% still using EQ, regardless of the conversations, regardless of the GAs. People are using whatever competitive edge they can to win. And it's kind of unfortunate that we see Vegas do the same thing, and I would hope to see Dylan not be using that. But if everyone's using it low-key, EWC is your last chance to make a big bag this year. If just FaZe up, you could do it too. Everyone throw that shit on. Let's go. Make it happen.
At this point, though, like, I'm kind of just here for the entertainment, Like, the reason why I especially disliked snaking and sound EQ last year was because it just made the game bad to watch. Like, everyone was snaking all the headies. They heard everyone in the corners. Like, it didn't make the game as good to watch. But to be fair, we've seen the game played this year, and it's pretty fun to watch, I think, in general, on what we've seen. If people start snaking at Champs or the World Cup, it's going to create a bit of a different game. It's going to be interesting to see who's snaking that heady. Wow, that's a dirty, that heady with the snaking. Wow, that's pretty crazy. I don't think people are going to be snaking. I hope not. And I imagine, at least on LAN, probably sound EQ ain't happening. But then again, are you going to practice with what you're not going to use at the main event? And also, because it's not an official CDL event, does the rule against sound equalization on LAN even exist?
Yes.
Possibly not.
Yes.
So that's kind of why, if I'm pretty convinced that some of the Challengers players are going to use it, fuck it, I'm going to throw it on as well. Who cares?
That's what I'm thinking too. This is not I don't think this is a straight up CDL sanctioned esports engine event. I don't think it's that direct. So, is there anyone actually PC checking this event? Probably not. So at that point, goddamn, bring your Cronus, bring your sound EQ, bring whatever you want, because no one really cares. They just want a good show, right? The Saudis are there just putting on a good show and wanting some, their piece of the esports pie. So maybe that's the reason why Legion and some other teams are now using EQ on their scrims. That could be a very well a reason, but I do think it is kind of shitty that now into the end of the year, Champs was pretty clean, to be honest. We didn't really see much bullshit happening during Champs. But going ahead, it kind of sucks now that going into EWC, the last event of the year, now we're seeing single taps, we're seeing sound EQ, we're seeing all the bullshit kind of come back. I wouldn't be shocked if teams were starting to snake at this EWC thing. I wouldn't be shocked, honestly. But it is kind of shitty, I will say. Here, we're going to look at some of the where's the clip I was looking for? The GTA clip. Where is it?
There's a few that are going around.
I'm looking for the MC or the Pred one. Where is this? Where is it? I had it up. Now it's gone all of a sudden. Tragic.
I mean, is it the comms one?
Yeah, it's the one with with AG. Yeah, exactly, the comms one.
When he's watching the actual watching the gameplay.
Well, AG's being MC and doing his comms. That's the one I was looking for.
Okay, yeah. So there's this. I mean, I'll link it on the Reddit. There's this one, and then there's also something like this. I mean, there's a few good funny clips, to be fair.
Let me throw this one on. So if you guys don't know,
this is probably the best of the day.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, AG, Amir, Pred, is
I'll check that
in GTRP is Celium, and Celium MC is in GTRP being Pred. So it's straight mindfuckery going on in there, and it's so funny.
Oh yeah, OpTic did tweet actually. It may be easy to find it this way, but it doesn't really matter.
Oh, OpTic tweeted it themselves? Oh, they did.
Yeah, they did.
There we go.
Good job, chat. Appreciate you.
Go work, everybody. So yeah, this is AG basically being Cell's comms with the voice changer. It's fucking so funny. Why so quiet? Damn.
I'm staying alive. I'm still alive. Nice to meet you. Nice to Guarantee.
Holy fuck, that is a good one. And then this is actually GTA RP of. Wait, I opened the wrong one. This one. This is actually GTRP of AG Pred being Cell. This is the first time that MC and AG meet in the game. And remember, they're being each other. If you didn't see this clip, you're missing out. So we will bring it to you live on Dope Check because this is one of the best clips I've seen in a very long time.
Is it?
Yeah, I do what man. I don't know, man. I don't know.
What's going on? Who is this?
I'm a co-worker, champ. I'm a
AG,
co-worker.
Whoa!
Nice to meet you.
I'm
Nice to meet you.
Who are you?
Nice to meet you. My name's MC, man. My
Nice
name's
to meet
MC.
you. AG, nice to meet you. What's
Nice to meet you, man.
Of course. You fucking heard.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, he's falling.
Hey, brick for brick.
Oh, he's falling.
Hey, Brandon, where is he, Brandon?
Oh, we gotta go back to the hospital.
He's where, Brandon?
We gotta go back to the hospital, yo.
Of course.
Yo, man. What's up, man? Where's Tyler? Where's Tyler and Chris, man? I need to carry me, man.
So good. It's good fun, man. I think it's some really good fun happening between Pred and Celium. Again, everyone outside the game is boys, but I think it's like good fun that they can poke at each other and know that no one's taking it in bad spirits. I think overall, there's also this one more. I just have this GTRB stuff I love. So there's one more clip here that I'm gonna add to this bunch. It's apparently someone said Bruce is walking in. So I think Dashy joins the server as well. This is a Twitch clip here.
See, man. I can't see without my glasses. Yeah. I need my. Wait, pause. Oh shit!
Like, Rab, I know you're not in the server, right? You're not in the server just
not
yet.
Not yet.
Not yet, but what do you think about? You've seen the clips? They've been in your videos. What do you think about GTRP? What do you think about people introducing COD characters? Like Benjay Nassim is in there, Pred is in there, AG's in there, and then someone else popped up last night too. I forgot who it was. Someone in chat could probably tell me. There's another COD character that someone made. Oh, Zinni came in as Drazah, Zach Drazah for a little bit. So what do you think about this new kind of pull of the COD scene into GTA?
I mean, I think this content just shows like how far ahead the COD pros are in terms of like personality. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that you could probably, there are probably other esports you could get this to work in, but I think it just shows how fun the personalities are in COD that we can actually do this, and it is just hilarious and it works really well for everyone. This is prime like off-season stuff as well, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the future of this because there's multiple angles. Like obviously, it's kind of the players are having fun with each other, but there's also obviously always going to be a natural bit of trash talk either way, because Pred's impression of Cell doesn't give me the impression that he thinks the Cell has especially good comms. So, but you know, that's probably a general feeling among the pros anyway. The same with the yo stuff within there.
What do we? Yeah, I'm curious. What in the comments or YouTube or in here? Just which COD person do we need in a GTA server? Let us know, man. I'm really curious who we need in the server that's not there. Which personality do we need in here? Speaking of COD people and just what's gonna happen next year and all that, we're back to this list, right? The FA tracker, courtesy of Ben J. Nassim. What do we think of the possible FAs? So I'm gonna say some of them. We basically just have Carolina, Gorillas, most of Boston Breach from that we know this year, Legion, and like half a Surge. That's pretty much all of our FAs for the year. And then Vickle, Dashy, which after this win, I doubt Dashy's even going to be an FA like that because he just won champs. So they're definitely going to renegotiate. Dashy's not going anywhere. So, Rab, what do you do in an offseason like this before Black Ops 6 when there's none of the top four really can move unless someone gets bought out, and most of the FAs are just kind of a hash of people who didn't make champs? What do you do?
Well, exactly, yeah. Could you adjust it as well a little bit on the screen just to make sure like we can see the names on the far left? That would be all good.
On the far left. Oh, yeah, I got you.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Just like move it up the pixels. But yeah, no, I agree. It's like the issue is with the contracts the way they are, it was always going to be this way after last season being so crazy, every team changing. Everyone was going to be locked down under these team options. But it really just comes down to what we saw at Champs and then what we see at the World Cup. And also what's happened in the interim, right? It's like we're going to talk about some of the scrim results here in a second, but what we've basically seen is that the teams that have blown it up, that didn't make champs, they're back to practice. The teams that did well at champs or made it deeper champs, even if they didn't do well, they are still probably taking a break. Like we've not seen Vegas or whatever practice against FaZe, for example. Like we've not seen that scrim set going through. So are FaZe practicing? Like are they grinding? Like a New York grinding? Like what's going on there? Like how's those internal situations kind of handling? Because you can bet your bottom dollar that after the World Championship, some of those boys were at the bar talking to some other guys thinking about what roster changes they were going to make. So, and usually would have seen rumors about that by now, but the reality is they can't because Champs is coming up or the World Cup is coming up, Champs is done, and therefore they can't make the changes quite yet. So to me, it's not so much about these team options or about the contracts. It really just comes down to what the players want to do. But there were some teams last week that we didn't really talk about in detail, and obviously some of them are on here. I think we can probably get to those, but we can talk about some scrimbucks first if you wanted to do that. Just
sure.
Some scrim results, as we call them in COD.
Scrim results. The scrim results.
Oh, is he muted? Yeah, he's muted.
Oh my god. Oh, the scrim results. You're speaking of the Ghosty talking about leading up to champs one.
No, so I would just go on CDL Scrim Intel's Twitter and just scroll down to a couple of days ago, and then go through the results.
Let me fry some people.
You're muted again. Are you actually taking the piss? This guy has lost the floor.
Listen, I made my thing M, and now all of a sudden it's a problem now. I gotta roast somebody for this. I gotta roast somebody really quick. Can I roast? Chad, you mind if I roast? I'm gonna roast live on Dope Check right now because I have to. People gotta hop off Lamar's dick right now because he got flamed for this right here. For this one right here, right? Okay, he dropped 11 on a sub base. And it's just like, okay, he had a bad map. But then if you scroll up 25 normal map, if you scroll up even to this 6-star, he has the most kills, 28 on his team. Like they got absolutely slammed in sub base, and then you have people like this guy, bro. Like specifically, I'm going for next right now. I'm going for next right now.
I started distracted with the DMs he leaked, yeah. All good.
I didn't leak any DMs.
No.
Yeah, I didn't leak nothing. Whoa, we saw we got leaked. We got leaks. What happened?
Nah. Just trolling you.
We got leaks. No, relax, bro. Relax, everyone. No, I had somebody put up the tweet. I want to go find it, but it's gonna take too much time. Basically, they're like, "Oh, CDL. The one thing I can't understand the CDL is why Lamar's on a roster." And this is not even defensive of my cousin, but I'm gonna put it like this: if you random nobodies who were calling for Sib and Pred to get dropped earlier this year are now questioning why Lamar's on a team, I think I'm gonna side with the CDL players that see the value in him and the coaches that see the value in him on a team rather than your random ass opinion. That's what I'm gonna stick with, and I think from fully, that's just the way people should look at it. Any other way looking at it is like a random person saying, "Oh, LeBron James is washed." Bro, who are you? He's on the. People are dying to play with LeBron James, and you're out here calling him washed. Like
Lamar is LeBron.
Not the point, man. Rab, you're trolling with a smile on your face. Stop doing that shit.
You know what I mean?
No, but it's a veteran player that still is out here, and obviously the team was struggling as a whole. I think people just are yapping too much and bringing any attention with Lamar doing badly. I think it's just like it's overblown, overgassed, and it's not fair overall. But speaking,
as much as I like to troll, I mean, Ace is kind of cooking on this one. Like, I mean, you can't read into one map of scrims. Let's be real here. It's also a brand new team. So, like, and the rest of the script was fine. I just think that it's going to be very interesting to see this Rocket team, how they perform. I genuinely don't expect this to be the same roster that Rocket field next season, or G2 field next season, depending the way that it goes. But I do kind of like what they've put together here. Oh, we got some new ones, have we, from this afternoon? Vegas versus the Stallions.
Yeah, so this is I guess a scrim set. Vegas versus FC. What we knew as FC Black, right? Vegas won map 1, map 2, map 3, and lost subbase. 3-1 Vegas. So let's look at some of the attached 33. Nero goes off on Karachi. Kind of a slow map. Brack with only 10. Attached 25. Nero 29. Fame 30. Fame 31. People are on. See again. Even people were on Flames dick like the other day when he was getting slammed in scrims, but now he's dropping good numbers on Rio. Like it's scrims, everybody. Everybody needs to calm the fuck down. But then on some base, yeah, notoriously Vegas were actually kind of good. Geo is a big fryer on this map, but I guess with Fame, they're still finding their footing. One map they lose. There's another set as well. Take a look at that one really quick. Oh, another one with Vegas versus Stallions. 5-2 map count with controls. Vegas pretty much dominating the scrims. And honestly, I'd be shocked if they weren't dominating the scrims. We also got.
I mean, they should be really. Like, you can score. To be fair, you can score like a long way back a couple of days ago because it was about 3-4 days ago that Vegas and Ravens were starting to scrim, and Ravens were kind of cooking in this one. Obviously, this is early days for both teams, but it's just worth having a look at. Really, like there were maps such as this, for example, where they played a couple of scrim sets. And then obviously Rocker got involved. Yeah, I think these were pretty much the first ones we saw here.
Yeah, Vegas were getting fucking slammed in these. Let's be. It was bad.
Yeah, Beans and team were cooking. Yeah, I like the new Ravens team. I think that Vegas, they are solid, but you know they were all right with Johnny. I don't see them getting any better with Fame. Whereas I do think the Ravens get better. I mean, as much as I didn't want Clay to get dropped, I think that it was inevitable that one of those two had to go. Like they decided to keep Fellow over Clay. It is what it is. But Beans is exactly the type of player they needed. You know, straight shooter, gonna deliver kills. The only concern I have with them is that like if they get too many kills. I mean, I think there was one map they played yesterday maybe, and they outslayed by like 25 kills and won by 21 points or something on maybe a 6-star. So that is a bit of a concern maybe for them. And it's not like, okay, they win this control, but they lose the other two controls, which is usually going to be a strong super teams that can slay hard. It's only scrims. It is what it is. But I think Ravens have been looking kind of nice. And I'll be really interested to see how they play against OpTic at the EWC, because I think there's no doubt in my mind that OpTic are going to go in with less practice going into the tournament than Ravens will. Now, whether that makes any difference, it shouldn't really. OpTic are the better team. They should win. And they probably will win. But who knows? Like, Ravens can be potentially a threat if they really, you know, if they maintain this performance, I guess.
Yeah, the shocking thing about those scrims, though, that I will say is that, you know, we talk about Beans as a control shooter, that they were actually they got had in the hard points, like bad, like Vegas were getting destroyed. But then the controls, they actually took the scrim set, which is kind of weird to think about with Beans. I would think Carolina have been so ass at control. I thought Beans would be the solution to that, but it seems like they're still figuring out their footing in control with Beans. This is the clip apparently of Lamar using single tap. So I mean, let me see what's going on here.
You shouldn't have the doorway. Bundy there. Shooting up.
Return to base.
Fuck. You just got all that P1 time, then just put us into a trap on P2.
Yeah.
Alright, yeah, the thing we need to do on P2 is every time, I'm telling you, it's actually fucking godlike. It's just
I see what they're saying.
Last guy off spawn just plays Burger really slow.
That motherfucker ATS.
Bar's just got like that godlike movement, bro.
Saw that right there in the kill
P1,
cam?
bro.
You saw that in the kill cam right there, dude?
Yeah.
That's single tap for sure. I promise that's single tap.
Well, guys.
Yeah, last guy go burger when we're spawning out on P2. We were thinking
Well, guys, it looks like I gotta get off the show because I gotta go jump somebody. I'll be back in a little bit. Nah. Yeah, I mean, hey, bro. All I'm gonna say is if other people are using EQ and other people are using single tap, and again, I'm convinced earlier in the year Abuzo was lying about not using certain things too. I'm convinced about that. So it is what it is right now.
Ooh.
No, I am. I'm 100% convinced. I don't care if he said he didn't use it.
I mean, I'm down to hop on the bandwagon. He's still got me blocked.
Wait, are you serious?
Let me check.
People, that's actually true still. It's been a long time, bro. There's no way he still has you blocked.
Yeah. Nah, he still has me blocked. 100%.
Holy shit.
I got the receipts.
Insane. But yeah, going back to the FA list, I know we just took some quick distractions. The one conversation, speaking of Abuzo, which is interesting, some people are saying NY, right? They had the winning champs. They still took an upgrade on Priesta for Sib, right? Even after winning champs. They make grand finals. They don't win the champs. Skies for Abuza was a conversation starter, but then we get the report, actually, I don't know if anyone saw that Cloud9 re-signed all their guys. So, chat, I kind of want to silence all the noise in there that New York is not making a change. It's been confirmed straight from Cloud9 that they are all re-signed, and that's one of the top 4 teams now that's not making a change. We know OpTic is definitely not making a change. FaZe, besides Drazah, that's the only possibility, but after that, Toronto, I don't think are making a change. Every team is pretty much locked except for FaZe and Toronto. And the only thing we can see happening is nothing, in my opinion. I'll be honest. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't really see any type of change kind of really happening with the top 4 for us. I will say,
I think something will give. I think like FaZe. I think FaZe are going to make a change.
Wow.
I think that's going to create dominoes. I don't know what New York will do because my opinion is that they bloody blew it up last year after winning champs. I think they've got to think about it. I know people mentioned earlier in the chat, like, what if you swapped Kismet and Envoy? Like, does that help? Does that, it's an interesting one. I don't like it. You know my thoughts on Kismet. I do like Kismet. I don't know why I said it like I think he's terrible. But if you put Kismet alongside Kleenex, I'm like, that ain't really working for me. Envoy to New York, though, I think would kind of be nice, right? Like Envoy and Hydra, I can kind of see that, maybe. The thing is with Hydra, he's a very, I wouldn't say quite enigmatic, but what's interesting about Hydra is that you think, oh, he's the pred, he's the scump, he's the simp, right, of the team. Like, he's the player who's getting the kills and the KD, but isn't maybe the fastest. But actually, that's not true. If you look at Hydra's numbers, he is the best performer in terms of KD and delivery in terms of kills, but he's also the fastest player on the team as well. So if you have Hydra, you don't necessarily need an Abizi, right, or a Kleenex alongside him. You can probably just do a fast but good role-playing SMG next to him. Maybe Envoy could be that guy. It kind of depends. But the thing is, I don't think you're going to get a trade there because I don't really think I see that helping both parties. And look, Skies is just doing the job that the team wants him to do as far as I'm concerned. So I think that conversations will have been had post-champs, but I think that things will depend to some degree on what happens at the World Cup as to whether teams like change their mind on what they might be currently planning to do.
Yeah, no, this is the big thing here that just to silence the rumors of NYSL. We speculated a lot. And again, in our humble opinion, Rab's saying it, I'm saying it myself too, I think NYSL need a change. And this is a rare case where I know Trey likes to say a two-man change is needed, like most of the time, to really make a big change. They just make grand finals. I think a one-man change here could be the difference maker between NYSL getting back to the grand finals and really pushing ahead and having another incredible year, or kind of the potential of flip-flop, right? Kids having a bad series here, Sky's having a bad series here, good major here, bad major here. I think one piece difference here, if they replace Skies or Kismet, could be a huge factor for NYSL. But looks like the Cloud9 founder has silenced pretty much all that and said, no, we're gonna stick with the boys. Back-to-back years, it makes sense ultimately. But as COD fans have been around for a long time, right? COD people have been around for a long time. NYSL, I think, are shooting themselves in the foot just a little bit. Speaking of coaches, right, we saw the FA list a second ago. This is the current FA list. We have the coaches list as well. Saint, Zed, D-Real, Karma, and Rambo are believed to be FAs. I mean, I think of all of NYSL were just re-signed. I'm going to assume D-Real was re-signed as well. I'll make that assumption, right?
Well, okay, let me comment quickly on this.
Okay.
There was some debate on this list just because I think it was Brian Saint replied and said that because he's the GM as well as the coach, yes, his, let's say, substitute contract or whatever is expiring, but that doesn't necessarily mean that his general management coaching job is expiring. Like, basically, he was saying that, yeah, he's still there for next year. In the case of Karma, I don't think that's changing. In the case of Zed, quite possibly. In the case of Rambo, I don't think it should. But it is the New York question, which is quite interesting, right? Like, there were a couple of leaks that went around a couple of days ago now on exactly what's happening at the subliners. And the general feeling seems to be that Daryl and Sender don't really know what's going on because of the transition from New York to Cloud9. Now, you would think on paper it's a no-brainer to keep them around. I think, to me, they have felt like the strongest coaching staff in the league now for the last couple of years. But Daryl was tweeting after champs like he straight up didn't know. And Sender, maybe they think, well, we just need one of these two guys, or depending on budget or whatever the case is. So this is the question. But also, like, Daryl could be up for grabs, right? Like, if this is true, then someone else is going to presumably come along and say, hey, you interested in coaching us? We've talked about this, for example, with, as you mentioned, the potential two-man change, but even a one-man change. But for FaZe, it's like, if you are going to make something happen, then maybe you need to think about what goes on with the coaching staff, or whether you want to have a think about something else there, and therefore there's other possibilities in the works potentially. So, because if Daryl doesn't get re-signed to New York or to Cloud9, like, someone else is going to try and get him as their coach, you would imagine. Even if, like, let's say Lamar decides after the World Cup that he's going to coach next year. So, because he'll get a spot if he wants one. So it's very interesting.
I'm curious if, like, Zed remains with Boston, right? People who don't make champs, I'm curious if you remain. Like, someone in the chat said Brian Saint remains on Carolina. Respectfully, why? Is it because there's no other COD coaches out there? There's not a better piece? Or is it because maybe he's willing to take a low offer? I'm not really sure, but I feel like if you don't make champs as a coach, and I'm gonna say in Saint's part, he had a better roster. He's a veteran roster as well, so I think it's a little more shocking as compared to Zed. But yeah, no, I don't know. I'm a little curious as to what happens with the coaching staff. Do we see a mix-up? We don't really see much of a mix-up in the top four or many of the rosters below that. But maybe we see some coaches start to flip-flop from team to team, and maybe some challengers coaches come up. Hopefully the FC Black coach, after such a phenomenal year, can come up into the league and offer something. I don't know. I'm just trying to really think about it and see what the possibilities are. Because I want to see movement in the league. I want to see movement for the show, for the drama, for you, for everybody. We got to see something fun like that too. Got this clip of Ghosty talking about Scrim's League of the Champs. Says he thinks OpTic was going to make grand finals and was surprised Seattle didn't make top 6. Let's peep his prediction, his little eerie prediction.
they were really good? Was there a team you're like, holy shit, like these guys are frying? You're expecting a lot of them or
obviously,
anything or nothing out of the ordinary?
We didn't scrim OpTic, Toronto, or LAG.
Hmm.
But I thought Seattle was going to perform better.
I've heard that. I've heard that multiple times from people.
Yeah, I also thought FaZe was going to perform better.
Yeah, I think we all did for that one.
I didn't know, but like from what I was hearing, I thought OpTic was probably going to make the grand final, and I thought New York was looking pretty good too.
Okay.
Like I wasn't really like the only genuine surprise for me was Seattle not getting like a top 6 or fighting for top 4, and then obviously FaZe is a pretty big surprise. But with our upset, I mean, they were bound. Someone was bound to get a top 6 out of those two.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, OpTic, from what I heard as well, was muted. OpTic was actually performing very well, leading up to champs. I wonder why. I don't know who knows why they're performing so well. Some structure was added to their element. I don't know what it was, but
nah, I haven't heard anything to that effect.
Yeah, no drama, nothing. I don't know, nothing on the TL. The Seattle thing was another thing I was hearing as well, that Seattle was actually bopping in scrims, like beating NYSL. Pushing people to maps, like doing really good stuff in scrims, but it didn't translate. Do you think we see Seattle performing differently at EWC? Do you think they underperformed getting top 6, in your opinion, from watching them all year?
Yeah, I think there's a good argument to say that they did. Like, I actually really liked what Seattle did towards the end of the year. The progress they made as a team, actually feeling like and being a team as well, was quite nice compared to some of the other bottom teams in the league for most of the year. I think they did a good job putting together their roster. Brezzy impressed me towards the end of the year. Obviously, Abuza was largely frying. So I think they're a real team to watch. Like, that's why that Group B is quite, very interesting, because of the whole New York Seattle thing. And like, they should have got at least top 6. I mean, they played Miami and bottled a 5-3 lead round, game 5 to bow out of the tournament as they did. And they played Subliners round 1 and they went game 5. Like, that was a close series that New York absolutely could have lost. And they're going to play again at the World Cup. So, yeah, that's what I'm excited about. The issue is, as Sixer says, and I think I've made this point, and we've probably made this point during the show for quite some time, that I always felt like Seattle would be a better team online, right? I think on LAN, inevitably, the way they play the game is going to get punished a bit more. So the question is what that regression looks like. But the pros also understand this. So when you've got a number of pros saying like, wow, they were really good and I'm surprised they didn't do better, it probably tells you that actually, no, like they were legit on some level. And they just played and lost 2 close series that they'll feel frustrated about in hindsight. But they've got a chance to get revenge for it here, because like at champs, it's very, very rare to have a dark horse run to be a winner, right? Like, it happens. 2018 is like the only example really of a fluke winner, if you want to even call it that, from Evil Geniuses. Every other year it's been one of the favorites, or it's been a team that's in the conversation that's won the event, that's done well just before. If there's any time to win like a big event that is a big event, the World Cup is a great opportunity to do so, because the teams that won will have been celebrating, they won't have been taking it so seriously, they'll potentially be caught off guard. It's single elimination in the playoff bracket as well, is worth noting. So, I do think that it's possible for a Dark Horse run to happen here, and I think that Surge are potentially one of the teams to do it. It has implications as well for their Rostermania, right? Because if they bomb out of the World Cup, they've got to blow it up. But if they do well at the World Cup, there's an argument that Rambo might say, hey, we need to stick with this team, at least with 3 of the 4, and run it into next year.
Do you think we see Abuza go anywhere, or any team try to offer big for Abuza?
I think it's possible, but I just don't see. Maybe like Thieves. Like, I think that's not impossible, because there was theories about that before. It works in both ways, right? Because is Abuza getting an offer from FaZe? No. OpTic? No. New York? No.
I mean, we saw it re-signed, so no.
Yeah, exactly. Re-signed. I mean, I guess with New York there is the whole like the French thing with Hydra. No, maybe there's something like that, but kind of doubtful. Toronto, it ain't gonna happen there. Wouldn't really make sense to me. So then you're looking at the next best teams are basically Surge ain't far away.
Yeah.
And then you got Thieves, really. So I think that's why, just because there was rumors, right, that last off season, Abuza and Linz was like a rumored duo to go to Thieves that never happened. So, I think it's a possibility that something like that could be a consideration. Because I think, we'll discuss Thieves in a second, what they might consider doing, because of the teams that we didn't really talk about on last week's live show, they are the team with the most ambition, I would say.
Yeah.
So.
They're saying Theory posted the rules to EWC, so I mean let's.
Yeah, is it Theory CM or Theory DM?
It's DM Theory, I think.
DM
Theory, right here.
Yeah, here we go.
Here it is, right here.
Yeah, okay. No, I did actually see this thrown around. Behavior-related rules. The pros have got to be careful, man. We talked about it with Dante on the podcast before, champs. Like, these brothers got to make sure they ain't trying to smuggle a vape in on the plane, because they ain't going to end well.
Yeah, basically, so, I mean...
You're on mute again.
God damn it. Basically, yeah, I'm leaking DMs and stuff, too. It's all good. Basically, when Kremp got up and went full gang sign middle finger mode, you can't do that. If you do anything like that, it's definitely gonna work against you. And I mean, this event is a sanctioned event by the Saudi kingdom. So like, I think there's got to be some reminders to some of these some of the younger guys. I think especially to like maintain professionalism, because it can work out definitely against you if you decide to get a little too crazy in the heat of the moment. Middle fingers up, fuck yous, all that kind of stuff is gonna be. Potentially, you might be put in jail or some shit in Saudi. It's really serious out here.
Right, these players might be cooked, man. It's going to be hilarious if this is like the one event of the year that the players have to keep it like super calm and professional. We know that they're not very good at doing it. I am just glad that this isn't like the rule all the time. Like, okay, fine, this is how you want to run the event. That's cool. And to be fair, like the league said the same shit when the league first came around. Like if you back in 2020 when the CDL first existed, they were all about this. Oh, if you swear in a tweet, you're gonna get fined. Over time, they didn't bother with that. But yeah, that's the rule. And so no obscene or offensive gestures or profanity in their tags, player handles, team branding, game chat, live communication, lobby chat, any sort of other public communications. They can't even talk trash in game. That's going to be very interesting because someone's going to do it. I can guarantee that. The question is, what's the repercussions going to be?
Actually, one of the funny things in chat, someone said is, damn, everybody's going to be sober for Saudi. Hypothetically, in some hypothetical world, Rab, let's say a few of the top teams get shit on. Do you think there's going to be some Adderall accusations that get thrown out if they get shit on?
I mean, like,
I'm just throwing it out there. Like, I'm not accusing anyone.
It's a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, I'm not accusing anyone. All I'm saying is that if a team let's say OpTic bow out top 16 somehow, or we see New York get slammed, or we see FaZe get slammed, whatever, I feel like that people are gonna start talking about that too. Like, oh shit, everyone's sober now. Look what happens, like on some crazy shit. I feel like that's people are gonna find every excuse in the book or every reason to justify or attack the top teams if they don't perform well at EWC.
Yeah, definitely a possibility. I mean, yeah, very interesting. I just think the players got to be careful. They got to realize they got to be a little bit careful because it's going to be a different environment there to what they're used to before. But
say I'm faded.
Let's say someone have an Adderall plug in Saudi. Yeah, doubtful that it's going to be a conversation. I think GAs are likely to be more of a conversation.
Yeah, but
was there a team that like you were playing before champ?
Speaking of the last couple things that people, we're talking about FAs, we're talking about next year, bringing up Abuza, right, one of the top free agents. Attach, Abuza, some of these guys. People are understating this guy Cobra in Challengers. We've talked about him a couple times throughout the year on Dope Checks, a few times, like. Did a little bit of drops in there, but across the board, look at these numbers, man. 1.23, 1.4, 1.3, 1.19. Pretty much a top player throughout the year in the EU side of things. Is a team faded for not taking a risk on someone like Cobra, or do you think he's gonna have another year maybe in Challengers, considering what his performance was this year?
Yeah, tough to say. I think a team such as, certainly a team like Surge will be thinking about it with Cobra, exactly what the plan's going to be. Because when you're looking at top prospects, you're looking at pretty much from Europe, you're looking at Cobra, right? And he was the guy who was with Brezzy, was with Abuza, was with Lins in challenges. Those guys only seem to be getting better. So there is an argument to say that Surge should think about it in the same way as the Spanish guys could also think about it, right? If you want to bring up the stats from Super,
Yeah.
obviously Renko also had a good year. The boys of the channel gotta mention him, but in the Spanish scene, it's quite fascinating, like what the politics look like. Just because, let's look at this Miami Heretics team. They're a good team, and I was impressed with them this year. They're a potential threat. They mix it up. They got some upset victories, but that team is not good enough to win champs, right? And maybe that's okay. And are we trying to win an event? Are we trying to win champs? I guess that's the goal at the end of the day for the Spanish scene. So if you want to do that, if you want to try and become the best version of the Spanish team you can be, you need to sign the best possible Spanish talent you can find, and then just hope the chemistry works. Like, I think that's the way to go. Vickel's an important asset over there.
Yeah.
And I like the rest of the team that they had. Metals obviously had a lot of moments in the year. Lucky was good. Journey was sometimes in, sometimes out. They had Eric Boom, sometimes in, sometimes out. Obviously, they made the changes they did over the course of the season. But in the end, they were not quite good enough. They weren't quite what they needed to be. So they've got to think about whether they decide to make some sort of move. And then you look at the other guys in the region, you look at the likes of Super, and you think, like, Jesus, this guy was absolutely cooking this year in challenges. Potential player they could look at, but will they, right? Just because of the whole politics in the Spanish scene, some of the guys don't like each other. If Super was to come in as one of the ARs, is that going to work out with whichever one of the other ARs they keep, whether they were to get rid of Lucky or... Like, obviously, they made the role change with Real coming into the team and all these things. So, yeah, very interesting. Like, but when you look at numbers such as this, from Cobra, from Super especially, similar numbers to what Abuza put up last year, similar numbers to what Scrappy put up the year before that, which is why you've got to treat, these type of players with respect.
I think if I'm Miami, what I would be doing here is either signing Super to the bench, or taking Lucky, putting him on the bench, and then adding Super to this pretty much a starting lineup now. Vickel, Real, two big good of pieces. Metals has evolved into one of the best ARs towards the end of the year in the entire game. I don't care what you think or whatever. If you're watching COD, Metals was absolutely frying. And I think Super adds that slaying element they need to the second AR and actually makes them a contender to not maybe win an event. Maybe. Again, the goal right now for all these bottom 8 teams is to take wins off of the top 4. That's the number one goal right now. Winning an event, we'll get there next year when we get there. But first off is building a roster that can compete with the top 4. Super adds that for you. And if Rocker, maybe like let's say Linz wants to come run it with Abuza, it makes sense if they try to make that happen. If Abuza stays on Seattle, that'd make a lot of sense too, or goes and plays in LA. If Rocker, for example, let's say can't get Abuza, why not take a chance on a guy like Cobra? Makes a lot of sense. You have that French connection. If I'm an NA team during the course of the offseason, I'd be taking a chance on Cobra for sure. I think Super is pretty much chalked. We kind of know where he's going, pretty much, right? If he's gonna go somewhere, it's gonna be Heretics, basically. So Cobra, if you're Boston Breach, if you're Rocker, if you're hey, any team that didn't make champs, basically, Carolina even, like, Cobra could be a pretty big upgrade for you if you're looking for someone to add to your roster. But, yeah, the FAA list is right here, man. There's not much. I think the LAG guys are a big group of talent that's going to disperse into the league. That's, seeing Estro on a team is going to be big. Diamond Con on some teams is going to be big. Fame being a role player is going to be huge. Flames maybe gets another opportunity. Maybe he goes to Challengers. Who knows? But this next year, man. I don't exactly know who's going to compete, but LAT is my top candidate to compete for next year.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about them then, right? So we've talked about Surge. We've talked about Miami a bit. maybe we'll just do Gorillas quickly before we get to Thieves, and then we can pretty much close out the show maybe with a couple of questions in the chat and stuff.
Sure, yeah.
But Gorillas, like, what's going on there? Because obviously Linz and Estrel is now the new SMG duo on Rocker for this event. They've been looking pretty good in their practice so far, it seems. I actually like the look of that SMG duo. Linz seems to be back to some degree of, I wouldn't say form precisely, but because you never really know from scrims. But you know what I mean. He's obviously been looking strong within reason. So, but Gorillas are basically gutted, right? Because Fame has gone to Vegas, and that may not stay the case, but you would think that Estriel is probably not going to come back into Gorillas. You'd think somebody else is probably going to get him. Flames is kind of left on his own. We talked to, some of the boys on the coaching staff back in Dallas. They didn't really know what was happening. They're not at the World Cup. So, I don't know what's happening over there right now, right? But I think it's impossible to speculate on that team because they're just all going to go. The team might go. Who's coming back? We just don't know. So, yeah.
It's a little bit crazy to me that the whole LAG situation, that they get hoed that badly. It does. I like it, though, just for the CDL side of things, that we get to see actually some changes happening to some rosters, right? Rocker gets 2 players, right? Vegas gets a player. Beans, some changes happen, add some spice for EWC, so we're not seeing the same old rosters going to another event and playing it out again, and basically it's so predictable. It adds a little bit of unpredictability to the EWC event, which I like. In terms of next year, though, man, I don't know what LAG is going to do. I don't know. Are they just going to find the next challengers group? If LAG's around, man, I feel like they should take. If I was intelligent, and let's say no one wants to take a risk on anyone at FC Black, I would just sign exactly the same the FC Black roster. I would take them, sign them into the league, and see what they can do. I mean, if no one wants to take a chance on Brack, on Exceed, on Dylan Rex, and these guys, okay, no one wants to pick us up. We've proven ourselves all year. Our old CDL records are sticking with us. Fuck it, let's run it back together. Let's prove ourselves again. Asim has a lot to prove as well, and I think with that roster, he's enabled. So if they can stick together and maybe get on this LAG team, it's going to be tough, obviously, online. No real support from your org. Coaching, the coaches are, some of them were paid, some of them were not paid. It was a really hectic year, I'm sure, for everyone that was part of that organization. But if you can sign a roster like FC Black and kind of have them going on that redemption story and prove themselves similar to how the team did this year, it could be massive. LAG could kind of maybe bring themselves back into some good graces with the fans, in the league, and not seem so much of like a joke org, overall.
I mean, yeah, if they do run it back, but I mean, at this point, who even knows? It'd be nice to see, but it's just things collapse so quickly over there, and then this season was just so lackluster. They did well with the situation they had, but that wasn't down to the ownership, that was down to the team they formed. So, that is what it is. But still, Gorillas, they tend to beat Thieves whenever they played them. But at the end of the year, Los Angeles Thieves ended the season with a top 4 placement. This is their situation, and this year was always going to be, from Thieves' perspective, from Nadeshot's perspective, going to be a rebuild year, right? That's what he said. That, okay, we came along and we did our best this year with the pieces that we had. And to be honest, at the end of the season, Thieves, they made champs. They did well at champs. I mean, we talked about this team a few months ago when they were nearly bottom of the league, right? They were down there with Boston. They'd been slapped around with that Cami and Afro team at the start of the season. They eventually start to build themselves back up into the league. They get enough points on the board towards the end of the season. They qualify for champs with a decent seeding in the end, and they defeat Toronto in the first round of the bracket. They surprise them. They could have beaten them again to get top 3. Eventually, they bow out of the tournament, but they also lost to OpTic on the way, and even that OpTic series was relatively clean cut. But even then, they had their chances maybe in the series. But over the course of the season, there was one stand-up player. Obviously, that's Dan Ghosty. We talked about him earlier in the show. That if you're Thieves, you absolutely cannot let him go at any cost. Sure, if FaZe come along and they say, hey, we want Ghosty, and Ghosty says, look, guys, I got the FaZe offer, I want to go type thing, you've got to let me go from the contract, it's probably going to happen. But assuming that isn't the case, they're going to try and keep Dan Ghosty. But as I said with Miami, or as I said with Surge, this team is not good enough to win champs. We saw it at the event. So what do if you've got to make a change? Because this is why people in the chat are discussing it. If you had to make a move with this roster, I would say that the two players that I'm most confident in are Ghosty and probably Joe Thieves. I think he improved a bit during the year. His numbers don't look great, to be fair, but I actually think of the SMGs, I prefer his play. I actually don't think this is as faded as you're pretending that it is. In my opinion, the first player I would look to upgrade is potentially Kremp. I think he's a bit too inconsistent. And I think that on LAN especially, he is prone to an absolute stinky that the other players on the team aren't necessarily. So, I don't think that you completely blow it up, though, and you rebuild around Ghosty, right? Like, people are saying give Ghosty the keys. Maybe you do, but also who do you get to replace all three of these guys? And then you're going to lose all the chemistry. People are talking about Nero. Anyway, what do you think?
Yeah, let's do a little bit of CDL GM gameplay here. Let's do a little bit of fun with this. In my opinion, if you are 100% building with Ghosty, I think these three pieces are 100% respectfully disposable at this point. If there are upgrades, you're going to take them. If I was the GM, personally, I'd have Ghosty. I'd have Attach. I'd have Nero. And maybe Hook, if Hook is free.
Whoa! Wow, that's a fucking team.
You get what I'm saying? Like the bottom 8 potential, like we saw the FA list, like it gets a bit mixy. And if not Hook, I would try to see if Estriel could come in. Well, not ever. Wait, Rab. You know what's insane? You know what's insane about this? Do you remember early in the year when I was the one critiquing Hook and the whole chat was like, nah, he's good. He's a big piece. Do you remember this? Do you actually remember when I was critiquing him and the chat was completely against me? All of a sudden, y'all realize that Hook is not good at this game?
I was the guy talking about this shit, man. I'm not taking any bullshit. I was getting flamed when I said that Hook was at least trying his best on that Surge team.
See? Listen to what you said. He was trying his best. I was saying he was dog shit. Nah, this is insane. The fact that this is getting flipped is crazy. Listen, okay, maybe not Hook, guys. Maybe not Hook. I'm saying maybe Estriel, Nero, Attach, and Ghosty. There you go. Relax. Get off my dick and keep. If I'm keeping anyone from this squad as a backup, because you have to take a backup of who's going to be the highest chance of possible loss here. I think Attach has proven himself. Ghosty's proven himself. So the AR duo, you don't really need a bench player for them. I think you would keep Kremp on your bench as a sub. That's what I would think. Because Kremp has those, again, you are right, the inconsistencies. I see that. But towards the end of the year, I saw him developing as a player. He was actually one of my least favorite players when he first came in. And then towards the end of the year, he started winning me over because he was clutching up at certain moments. He was playing a lot better, playing more in system. And I think JCap and Shane are a big part. A big piece of credit needs to be given to them for how well polished this roster looked from when they first formed to the end of the year. But I think you keep Kremp on the bench and you can Ghosty, Abuza or Attach, Nero, and Estriel if you can get him. I think that's a dangerous roster. And I think that roster is actually one that'd be a complete dark horse and can absolutely take maps, take games off of the top 4.
Happy birthday, Musa Lisa in the chat.
Happy birthday, brother. Happy birthday.
So yeah, look, I don't disagree entirely with what you say. I think the idea of like a 3-man change, like a complete blow it up, might be a bit too much. But at the same time, I think that if you really want to compete, you've probably got to because I like Nasty as a player, and I think that the numbers don't show quite how impactful he was this year, actually. But Ghosty knows a lot about COD. Ghosty will have his perspective on where he thinks the team could get better, because that was his AR duo. Last year, his AR duo was Dashy, and Ghosty's numbers were not as good as they were here, but yet they were still an effective team. Obviously, always going to be effective when it's OpTic. Yeah, I think you can improve on Nasty. I don't know exactly where you go to try and do that. The attach option is fine, and I like it in some respects, but I also think that Ghosty can bring a lot to the team that Dashy can, or Ghosty is leader character. I don't think you need attach, is kind of what I'm pointing out. Do you need a bit more slaying? Probably. So that's when attach becomes a viable candidate. There's also questions on who becomes a little bit faster. Does Ghosty step up into that kind of more flex role rather than being more of a main? People are throwing around stuff like attach Ghosty 04 and Joe Deceives. So yeah, the 04 option, obviously, he's not necessarily going to just be able to walk away. They could potentially try and steal him, which is not impossible. Y'all agree with Joe Deceives instead of Estriel? I think Joe.
Are we fucking high in the chat?
Nah, Joe deserves a bit more credit. Like, I actually think he's a solid player. Is he a player that I think is ever going to win the World Championship? No. Is he a player that's ever going to win a chip? I mean, possible, but could I do better? Probably, yeah. But also, I think that he's improved quite a lot year on year.
Estriel was shooting back with Adam Assault shooting for him. Are you out of Are we out of our fucking minds here? Yo, I'm about to lose it. The fact that Lion is getting pats on the back for throwing Joe Deceives instead of Estriel into the lineup is unbelievable. And then chat saying Geo over attach. I'm about to have an aneurysm live on Don't Check episode 30. I'm about to have a live aneurysm right now. Dude, what? Basically, your options really are let Ghosty decide which AR duo he wants, Abuza or Attach. If he decides Geo, sure, whatever Ghosty wants, you give him the key in that sense. Whatever sub duo he wants, take his input, implement it. And if JCap and Shane too, right? Like JCap's a legend, top, not according to you, but top 10 player in my opinion in CDL history.
Right, what do you mean? He's easily JCap's easily top 10.
Oh, I thought you said he wasn't.
I'm the one that guesses JCap. I'm the one that thinks he's underrated.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Put some respect.
No, okay, my bad. My bad, gangster. My bad. So JCap, a top 10 player in CDL history. Let the coach also have some input. Ghosty and JCap and Shane should get together and decide what roster they want. My opinion, your opinion, chat's opinion doesn't matter. If whoever Ghosty's comfortable with and JCap sees that can play in the system that they're developing over at LAT, I think is exactly what they should do. There's some good options, there's some good pieces. And if you can buy a couple guys out, like someone mentioned 04, like he's not I doubt Seattle will let him go, but if they're open to a buyout, absolutely you should grab 04. 04, Nero, Abuza or Attach and Ghosty, dangerous ass team. They don't have really that much of a weakness, to be honest.
All right, I'm going to throw something else into the mix here. I'm going to say we bring in Nero because I think he is going to be the hottest prospect SMG free agent with the highest potential. You can definitely get him off Vegas, no problems there. His partner on the SMG, you can work on that. You can either keep one of Joe Deceives or Crempo for one of these options. I'm saying the AR partner to Ghosty here should be Slasher. We're bringing Slasher back to Thieves. We're pairing him with Ghosty. Slasher's going to be the main. Ghosty's going to be slightly faster. Deadly AR combo. There with Nero. Choose an SMG. And run it up from there. Because to me, that sounds like a combo that can potentially make some noise.
Hey, actually, I don't hate it. I like Attach or Austin more than I like Abuza, honestly. So
I think I agree with that.
Yeah. And separately, I'm still, if you guys watch again, episode 29, I'm still of the camp that FaZe should pick up Austin and run it back with him in a real game, in a Treyarch game, instead of MW2. So Slasher was great here too, but my bigger opinion why he didn't come to my mind for this team is I still want to see Slasher go back to FaZe and run that back one more time, personally. So I don't know if that's gonna happen, but that's still what I hope they do, and I think would benefit them greatly. But I think ball, Trey. Not Trey. I think ball, Rab. I really think that team is, if they could get that together, that's leadership, S&D prowess, gun skill. You have your just pop off potential with Ghosty and Nero, and then whoever your fourth is, like you're right. Whoever you pretty much put in that system, put someone who listens and can take directions from JCap and Slasher, and basically you have a winning formula. I'm not gonna lie.
I do like it. I think the only concern I would have is just Slasher was on Thieves before, and there was drama because they dropped him, and then Slasher and JCap had like a falling out, right? And I don't know what that looks like today. I imagine that time has probably healed wounds on that to some degree. But those guys had, obviously, you had a great relationship. They won champs together back in 2016. They stuck that team out in 2017. They were, a duo in many respects, Slasher and Cap. Then on the Thieves team, Cap ends up as the coach, Slasher's a player, and then Slasher gets dropped and he's not happy about it mid-season. He's off the team. They make the changes. Eventually, they bring him back towards the end of the year. And it was obviously an absolute mess that Cold War season where JCap was dropping everyone on their necks every couple of seconds. But ever since then, it's felt like Slasher and Cap haven't had the best relationship. My feeling is that probably 3-4 years down the line, you would think that wouldn't be a hurdle, right? That they'd be like, all right, whatever, like that was the past. And if that makes the most sense, then let's go for it, right? But is JCap going to be on the phone to Austin to make that move happen, or is he going to be on the phone to someone else? That is a question, because I remember during the Cold War season, I assume this is not true to the day, but in the Cold War season when that drama was happening, there was a moment where Slasher said, like, I haven't even talked to him in, like, months. Like, I don't want to even talk to the guy.
I remember this, yeah.
So, it's just a potential little hurdle there. But I actually think that is what they should do.
I think that's a good suggestion. I think LAT is the hottest spot this offseason. For any big free agent, I don't think we'd disagree. I don't think chat would disagree that the number one spot for any free agent right now is going to LAT on that organization, first off, and 2, to play with Ghosty, and 3, to have your coach be Cap and Shane. I think all those factors, and maybe even be in LA, to be honest. Number 4, live in LA. That's a kind of a dream for a lot of people, So I think all those combos together really make LAT the destination. Boston, in my opinion, would be the right there neck and neck if it wasn't Snoopy. You have to play with no matter what, and a potential dysfunctional organization with Doug shadow GMing things and all this and that. Boston could be right there, but there's some culture changes that need to happen, in my opinion, there. After them, there's not really. Rocker's probably right under there, like in terms of organization you want to play for. G2, right? But we'll see how the offseason breaks down. I think we kind of put together a good little idea and filled the gaps in from our last episode that we didn't talk about. Chat, is there anything else? Any questions that you guys have before we officially wrap up? You think one more?
Yeah, quick questions in the chat. Would appreciate them.
You think one more ex-pro coming on the Dope Check as a content creator would give you guys some more viewership, but stick to 4 because any more is too much? Yeah.
I think 3 is the perfect number personally, but I mean 4 we could work.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to the idea of 4, but it's just the fact that the 4
in person, I love it.
Yes.
Online, I think it's a challenge.
We already hit, just me and Rab. This show's already been almost 2 hours. Just me and Rab. Trei's not even here. If Trei was here, this show would be 3 hours like this, easily. So if we had 4 people, with the amount of yapping we do on this show, I think it's kind of insane. So I think viewership, I don't think it's about viewership. I think today, if we're talking about viewership, basically Scump is live, Zuma is live, Colt, Havoc is live, Call of Duty itself is live. So I think today was just a crazy day for streaming. So I don't think that part has anything to do with why we're, whatever, viewers or not viewers, whatever, it doesn't matter. The guest is good. The guests are good. Do you think Marky B gets a coaching role? The whole LAG situation sucks. I think Marky B got screwed. I think Marky B deserves to be a voice and have a role, whether it's a GM or coaching role in the league. His team also in Challengers is doing well. So more picture proof that Marky B is a valuable asset.
It's just tough, right? Because there's not that many coaching spots, and you've got players who may be caught, like after what happened at Champs, what may or may not have happened during the World Championship, if Accuracy does want to become a coach, he's going to walk into a coaching job. Absolutely no questions asked. So, and then in recent years, you've got Karma, who's become a coach, and he's obviously taken up a head coach spot. You've got Rambo. Like, for some of these players, it's just difficult to get back into the league, especially if you're, if you're a challengers coach, you're trying to grind your way through and become notable. Every year, that maybe 2 of those guys are going to get opportunities. So it's a difficult place to be, but hopefully Marky B can get back in there, because I think that he did a solid job when he was in the league.
What if Attach goes to Ravens for fellow next year? That's actually not insane, Sector. I'm not gonna lie to you. If they keep Beans, if they manage to keep Beans, Attach, Gwyn, and TJ, That's kind of a wow. That's kind of an insane roster. That's a sleeper roster for sure.
I like that team. I also like the team as it currently is. I mean, I think that, like, Fellow's probably been a bit underrated himself as well. And so I think, but that's something that's worth considering. But then again, you've also got to think about the whole dynamic relationship with the coach, and that Brian's saying, well, to be fair, look, we thought he was boys with Clay, and he probably still is, but he still dropped him on his neck. So he's boys with Fellow doesn't necessarily mean the Fellow ain't getting dropped either. So that's possible. Yeah, we did talk about it briefly, Live. We talked about it from a theory tweet about probably 25 minutes ago, something like that.
Yeah, just about.
We didn't really talk that much about it, to be fair. But yeah.
Who are our EWC winners? Predictions?
I mean, to be fair, we've probably got another show to do before then, but we can predict it now. Before we get
No. You're actually right. We should wait for Trei. We have a show next week before, and we need Trei to be here anyways. We make those predictions. So tune in next week to make sure you know who we predict. Basically, let's see. One more question. Last question. Let's see. Any other questions? Do you see last question? Let me see a good one. Which team's getting do you all see Metals getting offers from another team?
Well, I saw that as well, like a couple of comments about like, does Miami, should they give up on the Spanish cheese? I don't think so. I think they've done a stellar job. We need the league to be more global, like there's no way. Metals, it's possible. I actually think he is a bit of a fry man. Bit too inconsistent. I think he stays because I don't think there'll be enough interest, especially from like a better team, right? Because, I mean, Miami came top 6 at Champs this year. Is he getting an offer from a team that's better than top 6? No. So he ain't gonna leave. The only way is the interesting part would be a player like Lucky, you know, like if they dropped in Miami and they did bring up like a super or something, then does Lucky get looked at? Probably not, to be honest. But players in that kind of ballpark would be my perspective.
I pretty much agree with you 100%. I think Metals is a good piece, and I think it's someone they see his potential now, how good he can be, and now getting rid of him it would be a shot in your foot. You made there's 4 teams that didn't make champs, bro. So like, you made it with your team, your roster. It's a Spanish organization. You're representing your home country. Why leave? I've been to their facility too. It's Hey, listen, bros. I don't know if you remember this, Rab. I got a Dr. Pepper from their vending machine, bro. They had a soda, bro. They had a soda machine next in their fucking facility.
How are these guys getting any practice done?
Dude, their facility was godlike. I'm keeping it $150. This shit was insane. Like 100 T's is very good. Like, it's better than theirs. But bro, people wouldn't expect the Miami Heretics have a sick ass facility. It is crazy. So I'm not leaving if I'm Lucky or if I'm Metals or whoever. I'm sticking there as long as I can and building that Spanish global peace part of the CDL as much as I can. I think which challenger team has the best chance to advance? FC Black, I think, is the obvious answer. Would you agree?
Of the challenger teams, the chance. Ooh, I mean, I guess it depends on the groups as well to some degree. So you might have a point about getting out of there. I don't know. I don't think Gentlemates are going to get out of the group. Omit Brooklyn, I don't really see having much chance. So yeah, it's FaZe Black or it's maybe that Law Gaming team, but I just don't see that happening for them either. So yeah, I think you're probably right.
This is the last question, guys. Thank you so much for all the questions so far. We're gonna wrap up after this one.
Again. So nicely done.
Last question.
Give him some gas and then he.
Last question for sure, guys, because we are hitting about that almost that 2.5 hour mark. Last question from Typically, which I do think is a great question. Do you guys think games are taken into consideration when building teams, and how much? Because some players are godlike on boots, jetpacks, on Treyarch games, etc. Very interesting question, Rab. Let's take that first, and I'm going to close it out.
Absolutely, yeah. It is a good question. It's a question that was definitely considered when teams were getting built, when things went back to boots on the ground. There was a feeling that after jetpacks, that, some of these kids are jetpackers. We want to go back to the OGs, form the teams of the godlike boots players and before. And the funny thing is that actually had some merit, as it turned out. Not so much about the Jetpackers, but more the fact that players such as Ace, players such as JCap. Okay, JCap probably isn't the best example because he literally won back-to-back champs and made all the champs grand finals in the Jetpack era. They called him JetCap for a reason. But there were players in that time frame. Ace was probably one of the more notable ones that were just not good at jetpacks, but back on a boots on the ground game where strategy and where positioning and where, I wouldn't say exactly teamwork, but those factors were more important. The players did get better, and that was something that was predicted, and it kind of did happen. It didn't happen to quite the extent that I think some were expecting, though, and I think the differences are usually rather marginal. I also think it's very difficult to say, oh, this guy fries on, like, Trey up games. It's like, I don't think that is the consideration. What you're normally looking for are things like, honestly, like red dots on the minimap, 150 versus 100 HP, what the movement looks like, maybe how much recoil the guns have. Like, stuff like this do have some input. And to be fair, like, if I was a general manager, I would probably be trying to do some analysis on this to try and gain a little bit of an upper hand. But also, there's so many variables in play. Somebody who was good at the last Trey game back in 2021 in Cold War, they might be washed up now. Like, you know, just because they were good back then, are they the same player they are now? Is that Treyarch cheese, or is that just them not being the same player they were? So many questions, difficult to say. But I think that it probably should be a slight consideration, but it shouldn't be the main one. Like, I think that 95% of the time, the players are as good as they will be on general Call of Duty games. The only factor for me in play is how much they actually enjoy the game. There are certain players that will, like a Beezy and Vanguard is one example of a down year for a player that really hated the game. And some players will just tend to be really good at games they enjoy and just not so good at games they don't enjoy. And for players like that, then you're thinking, all right, it's a Treyarch game they probably want to look at. But the issue is that the players that have been around long enough to have this kind of sample size, they are usually the good players that are on the best teams. So that's why it becomes, you know, the most players, if you're Thieves, you're looking at players, you're generally looking at players that have been around a year or two. So, you know, that's my perspective.
I love, no, honestly, I love, you really touched on a lot of the main points. I'm gonna add just some bullet points to it and close this out after that as well, unless you have anything else you want to add after that. But there are players like Mac, for example. Mac is notorious for being great at sliding games. So when it comes to a game that has a good slide, Mac is considered. But that's not the first thing that people are looking at, right? It's a player's intelligence, their COD IQ, their willingness to learn. And again, I think in this game, Black Ops 6, there is chatter, again, picking up people who are better with just movement in general. You're not going to find, there's not many players like Shotzzy, right? There's not, that's why Shotzzy is Shotzzy. So, but players who generally are better utilizing their movement on the map is being considered. But ultimately, like Rab said, it's truly your COD IQ, how well you learn, how quickly you can adapt, how quickly you can learn from mistakes. Just, if you're good at COD in the previous game, and you provably are a good teammate, and people can vouch for that, that is what's going to earn you a good roster spot. That's what's going to continue your career, and that's what's going to get you continuing on and on, whether you're a leader, a great leader, or a good follower. Both those things are very important when it comes to building a team that's well-structured with good personalities, and there isn't, you know, any head bashing in a personality manner or a gameplay manner or whatever it may be. Those are much more important than, oh, it's a Treyarch game, holy fuck. Like, that's not really at the end of the day what it is. With very special exceptions, like Mac and sliding games, Slasher when it comes to Treyarch games. Like, there's very special exceptions, but overall, that's not really what's moving the needle at the end of the day. But, guys, we've been going for 2.5 hours. Got still about 100, you know, a little more than 100 people. Appreciate everybody who came in today. No Trey today. But the OG duo of Rab and Ace is here. And even with Scum streaming, even with Zuma streaming, even with Call of Duty official Twitch streaming, you still decided to be here and not miss Dope Check episode 30. So, we appreciate you greatly. We love you guys. More episodes coming out. Likely, there might be a Friday episode this week too. A Friday little Dope Check with the guest. And then Monday, before EWC, there will be another episode, Dope Check episode 31. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow the Twitch, subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't. And we will see you guys next week. Thank you guys for watching.